Chapter 664. With that thought in mind, she immediately said to the Supreme Dean. The Grand Supreme Dean had also considered this problem and agreed immediately. After all, if one of them entered 2 academies, and one of them was the honorary chief disciple, it would cause too much trouble. Although he was the Grand Supreme Dean, there were still the elders in the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin. It would be troublesome to explain. Moreover, this girl had to apply for leave during this period. It would be better to just use an alias. In this way, he could hide her and use her as his trump card in the future. While the 2 of them were talking, the outside of the Tianyu Empire was in chaos. Buzz. After Luo Qingtong and the Grand Supreme Dean left, the end-of-year examination ended. Instantly, the steel of history lit up. Suddenly, a dazzling light shot up to the sky. A line of words appeared in the sky. The entire capital of the Tianyu Empire and even the nearby cities could see it. A loud and clear voice spread in all directions. Tianyu branch of the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin, Luo Qingtong, Intermediate Martial King Realm. First place in the end-of-year examination. First place in the Steel of History. Accepted as a heaven-grade candidate by the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin. Forever engraved in the history of Tianyu branch. As the voice rang out, the words in the sky changed instantly. Instantly, a series of points and achievements appeared on the Steel of History. Participated in defeating a Saint Realm expert. Competed for the first prize in the Steel of History, cleared 10 channels. Looking at the words that appeared on the Steel of History, everyone in the capital of the Tianyu Empire was stunned. Luo Qingtong? Intermediate Martial King Realm? First place in the end-of-year examination, first place in the Steel of History, accepted as a heaven-grade candidate by the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin. Forever engraved in the history of Tianyu branch? Participated in defeating a Saint Realm expert, cleared the Steel of History, cleared the Steel of History? Oh my God! Everyone stared at the words that appeared on the Steel of Tianyu branch. They almost thought that they were dreaming and hallucinating. Luo Qingtong? Isn't that the fiancée of the 5th prince who came from a low-level country? Didn't they say that she was born mediocre and was not worthy of the 5th prince? What's with the announcement from Tianyu branch? Everyone was shocked. Everyone in the imperial capital of Tianyu Empire was discussing this matter crazily. What Luo Qingtong had achieved was something that even Yuan Ma hadn't achieved in his prime. Was such a person mediocre? Not good enough for Yuan Ma? Was this a joke? How blind were Tianyu's royal family and Yuan Mo to see such a peerless pearl as a fish's eye? Looking at the words in the sky, the people of Tianyu Empire felt that the destruction of Tianyu Empire's imperial family was justified. To be so blind, if you don't die, who will die? No wonder they were so blind as to offend evil Dr. Ghost Eye. Previously, everyone thought that their sudden extermination was too tragic. Looking at it now, it was his own fault for being blind and courting death. Who could he blame? On the street, a young lady who used to adore the 5th prince raised her head and looked at the words that appeared in the sky. She couldn't help but mutter to herself, I used to think that the 5th prince was very powerful. Now, it seemed that he was also blind. I really misjudged him before. With Luo Qingtong's talent and strength, the 5th prince didn't even notice it. It could be seen how much he disdained and ignored Luo Qingtong and the Luo family. Even so, he still refused to cancel the engagement. Who knew what his intentions were? In the past, the people who felt that the 5th prince was wronged and that he was affectionate and kind to the Luo family and Luo Qingtong now despised him. Chapter 665. Weng. After Luo Qingtong's name appeared, Ling Tianhan's and the others' rankings were announced. The names of the heaven-grade candidates stunned everyone in the Tianyu Empire. Oh my God, are they hallucinating because they're not awake yet? Forget about the previous Luo Qingtong. Now all the candidates behind her were heaven-grade candidates. 8 heaven-grade candidates. Everyone was dumbfounded when they heard the names of the heaven-grade candidates. What? Heaven-grade candidates were worthless in the future? Everyone had the same thought as the dean of the Tianyu Empire. They wondered if they remembered wrongly that Yu Wenma was the only heaven-grade candidate. Only those from the Tianyu branch who had witnessed the scene with their own eyes knew the truth. It was all thanks to Luo Qingtong that the Tianyu branch could have such a grand occasion, which was enough to be remembered in the history of the Tianyu branch. No one could surpass it. It was because of this girl that the Grand Dean generously gave out 8 purple notices for heaven-grade candidates. She created a record that no one in the Tianyu Empire could surpass. Those who had looked down on Luo Qingtong and the little tyrant Yuan and mocked them for seeking death in the end-of-year exam and deserved it were the Tianyu Empire's students. Now that he saw little Overlord Yuan and the others being engraved on the Academy's historical stele and spread in all directions with the light of the Academy's historical stele, he immediately felt an indescribable jealousy. If they had been kinder to Luo Qingtong back then. If they had been closer to Luo Qingtong back then. Now, would their fates be different as well? Would he also be able to shine brilliantly like this? Would he be able to break free from the ordinary and step onto the path to the heavens? The Holy Institute of the Empire of Qin. Everyone in the Tianyu Empire dreamed of entering it. But only 10 spots were accepted each year. Some people stayed in the Tianyu Empire until their youth was gone, but they still couldn't get a single spot. How long had it been since the little tyrant Yuan and the others entered the Tianyu Empire? They were still students of the trash class, but they were like carps that jumped over the dragon gate. Not only had he become a student of the Holy Academy of the Empire of Qin, but he was also the most respected heaven-grade candidate. All of their achievements were no less than Yu Wenma's. Their previous ridicule, disdain for the other party, how laughable it is now. The person they were mocking was now standing at the pinnacle of light. He did not even bother to look at them. Buzz buzz buzz. Rays of light lit up on the historical tablet. Every time a line of words appeared, a voice would read out the person's information. Luo Qingtong came out of the Grand Dean's room and heard the announcement in the sky. She didn't need to leave the Tianyu branch school to imagine the chaos in the Tianyu Empire. A young girl from a low-level country had taken first place in the year-end examination, suppressing the glory of the former #1 genius of the empire. No matter who it was, they would find it hard to believe. The stain that had been splashed on the Luo family and Luo Qingtong had all been washed away. In the eyes of the people of Tianyu Empire, Luo Qingtong and the Luo family were no longer unworthy of Tianyu Empire's royal family and Yuan. It was that they were not worthy of being mentioned in the same breath as her. And this was only the beginning. The humiliation and disdain that Tianyu Empire's royal family and Yuan had brought to the original owner, she would return it all. Yuan, wait for me in the Holy Institute of the Empire of Qin. Chapter 666. For the entire day, the entire Tianyu branch was immersed in great excitement and shock. It was only when night fell that it gradually quieted down. After sending off the excited little tyrant Yuan and the others, Luo Qingtong lay on the bed and rubbed the 9 phoenix ring in her hand. For some reason, she suddenly wanted to see Yi Qianxian. Thinking of how that man protected her during the day and how he still transmitted his power to her even when he wasn't around, Luo Qingtong's heart stirred and she injected her spiritual power into the 9 phoenix ring. She didn't know how to use this thing. But since Yi Qianxian could transmit his consciousness and power through this ring, she should be able to go over as well, right? As Luo Qingtong thought this, her vision turned black with a whoosh and her consciousness appeared in an empty space in an instant. Luo Qingtong looked around and found that this space was the same space in the 9 phoenix ring that Yi Qianxian had led her into before. So how should she go over to Yi Qianxian's side? As Luo Qingtong thought this, she tried to disperse her consciousness and carefully sense this space. Soon, she felt a trace of connection, as if it was leading this space and another space together. Was that Yi Qianxian's ring? As Luo Qingtong thought this, she immediately shrunk her consciousness and spiritual power and swept over following that trace of connection. Whoosh! Her consciousness figure appeared in a black space. This was the consciousness space in Yi Qianxian's decimal dragon ring. Thinking of this, Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes and the corners of her lips curled up in an instant. The consciousness spaces of these 2 rings were indeed connected. If Yi Qianxian could find her through his ring, then she could also find him through this ring. She wondered if that man would be shocked when he saw her soul appear. As Luo Qingtong said this, her figure instantly swept over and she rushed out through the exit of the decimal dragon ring's consciousness space. Yi Qianxian. She happily jumped out of the 10-directional dragon ring. Look, I've found a way to find you. Are you surprised? You mean? Are you surprised? Before she could finish her sentence, Luo Qingtong's voice was stuck in her throat. There was no other reason. The room was filled with mist. The man stood up from the bathtub and walked out. Broad shoulders, narrow buttocks, and a tight waist. The 8-pack abs on his lower abdomen were extremely attractive. His body was still dripping with water, leaving streaks on the ground beneath his feet. His long hair was wet and draped over his shoulders. It was as black as a waterfall and as smooth as silk. Coupled with the man's indescribably handsome face, which was like the most perfect creation of the creator of the world, he was both enchanting and charming, and also a little wild and unruly. At this moment, Yi Qianxian was preparing to put on his clothes. Half of his body was already draped in a black robe. One of his hands had already reached into his sleeve, while the other hand was raised. The view in the middle was wide open, revealing his lean and muscular chest. Especially between her legs, oh my God. When Luo Qingtong came out, she was faced with such a scene. She thought of what she had just said. What was there to be surprised? What was there to be surprised? Instantly, Luo Qingtong's lips twitched. *T, this was more than a surprise. This was simply a shock. That. Can you continue? Luo Qingtong covered her eyes. Chapter 667. Bang! Yi Qianxian leisurely put on his clothes, then waved his hand. Luo Qingtong's body instantly rose into the air, and he threw her onto the couch next to him. Then, the man's body, which was still hot from his bath, pressed down on her, firmly imprisoning her between his arms and the couch. This sovereign is very surprised, and I like this surprise very much. Yi Qianxian's voice was hoarse. He looked at Luo Qingtong with a fiery gaze. When he sensed that Luo Qingtong might be in danger, he had just solved a problem, and there was still the smell of blood on his body. He had originally planned to find this woman after taking a bath, to see what had happened to her over there, but he didn't expect her to come to him on her own accord. Looking at this little woman who suddenly appeared in front of him, Yi Qianxian's eyes were indescribably deep and solemn. You came to find this sovereign so directly, did you miss this sovereign? Yi Qianxian's eyes shone brightly. Thinking that this woman might have thought of coming to find him immediately after being bullied, his heart was filled with indescribable joy. It was so full that it seemed like it was about to overflow. This woman had always been unwilling to rely on him, and would rather solve everything on her own. Now that she could think of him, even if it was already after the incident, did it mean that she was slowly starting to get used to his existence? Yes. I missed you. Suddenly being thrown onto the couch by Yi Qianxian, Luo Qingtong was stunned for a moment. Then, she narrowed her eyes, smiled wickedly, and wrapped her arms around Yi Qianxian's neck. But now it seems that Lord missed me more. Competing with her in sweet talking? She wouldn't lose. Luo Qingtong's breath smelled like orchids, and she approached Yi Qianxian with a devilish charm. The man's eyes deepened, and he couldn't help but lower his head. At this moment, Luo Qingtong's body suddenly shrunk with a bang. The originally evil and charming young girl suddenly turned into a cute little loli with 3 heads. Her originally overbearing and seductive action of wrapping her arms around Yi Qianxian's neck also turned into Luo Qingtong adorably hanging onto Yi Qianxian's body. The sudden turn of events stunned both of them at the same time. When Luo Qingtong saw Yi Qianxian's face darken, she couldn't help but burst out laughing. Haha. I swear it wasn't me. As she spoke, in order to prove her innocence, she twisted her waist and raised her head to kiss him in her mini loli form. Humph, Yi Qianxian snorted coldly. He lowered his head and mimicked Luo Qingtong's kiss. The kiss that was supposed to land on his chin landed on his lips instead. At the same time, he opened his mouth and sucked on Luo Qingtong's little tongue. The cute little loli, Qingtong, was already stunned. This man, she was already in such a state, but he still had the heart to do it? Wasn't this taste a little too strong? At this moment, Luo Qingtong seemed to have forgotten that she had laid hands on little Ming Zun in the past. Fortunately, Yi Qianxian wasn't as unprincipled as she thought. He only bit her little tongue with a black face and then let go of her. Your strength is still too weak to bear the full manifestation. Not counting the moment when she came out, Luo Qingtong's body shrunk. Yi Qianxian hugged the shrunken little loli, Qingtong, in his arms. Hugging the shrunken Luo Qingtong made him very uncomfortable. Although she was still fragrant and soft, Yi Qianxian still preferred the feeling of the original Qingtong nestled in his arms. Chapter 668. Oh. So that's how it is. Luo Qingtong nodded her head. No wonder she didn't notice anything wrong when she became smaller. So that's how it is. This was probably why the ring Yi Qianxian gave her automatically adjusted its size according to her strength. As Luo Qingtong was thinking, she heard Bei Qing and Feng Yu's respectful voices coming from outside. Master, you can go to bed now. Okay. Yi Qianxian responded in a low voice. Luo Qingtong then realized that it was already dark outside the window. So Yi Qianxian's side was also at night like hers? Luo Qingtong was curious. She didn't know where Yi Qianxian was at this time. Was he at the side, that elder you had mentioned? Or was he at the black field? As Luo Qingtong was thinking, she felt Yi Qianxian's figure getting up. The sudden feeling of being lifted into the air made her subconsciously raise her hands to wrap around the man's neck. However, Yi Qianxian's hands were faster than hers. When she moved, his palms firmly protected her. Don't be afraid. I won't let you get hurt. The man's voice was deep, as if he was talking about this matter, but also as if he was making a promise. Luo Qingtong raised her head to look at him. From her current point of view, the man's figure was tall and sturdy, like a god. Okay. She blinked her eyes, then nodded her head gently. She didn't know why, but the feeling of being lightly stung in her heart appeared again. So strange. Yi Qianxian carried Luo Qingtong out. Outside, Bei Qing and Feng Yu were already waiting for them. Master. Seeing Yi Qianxian coming out, the two of them habitually wanted to greet him. Then, from the corner of their eyes, they saw Luo Qingtong leaning on Yi Qianxian's chest, tightly protected by the man's large hands. In an instant, their eyes widened. Oh my God! Evil doctor? The two of them stared at Luo Qingtong with round eyes. Seeing their surprised expressions, the latter immediately winked at them mischievously, then raised her hand to wave at them and said, Hi. Luo Qingtong originally wanted to give Yi Qianxian a coquettish look, but Yi Qianxian directly raised his hand to block her face. Evil doctor. Dumbass, Bei Qing was completely shocked. He stared at Luo Qingtong, who was hiding behind Yi Qianxian's hand and waved at them. Oh my God. Why is the evil doctor here? Feng Yu, on the other hand, reacted quickly when she saw Luo Qingtong's tiny figure. Soul? Evil doctor, did you come here through the 9 Phoenix ring? He asked. Yes, Luo Qingtong pushed away Yi Qianxian's large hand that was blocking her and smiled at Bei Qing and Feng Yu. How is it? Are you surprised? Are you surprised? She had just said these words to Yi Qianxian, but in the end, she had scared herself. Luo Qingtong looked at Bei Qing and Feng Yu's shocked expressions and instantly felt a great sense of satisfaction. This was the right way to go about it. Yi Qianren's incident was an accident among accidents. It didn't count. Bei Qing and Feng Yu looked at her, then looked at Yi Qianxian. Master, this? Bei Qing's voice hid an unspeakable worry. It was really not safe for the evil doctor to appear here. There were too many people here who were against Master. If this strand of the demonic doctor's soul was damaged because of this, he was afraid that Master would go berserk without regard for anything else. It's fine. Yi Qinxian's expression was indifferent when he saw Bei Qing's worry. I won't let anyone hurt her. Moreover, she won't be here for long. Activating the dragon and phoenix rings required a lot of energy. With Luo Qingtong's current strength, even if she shrunk her body, she wouldn't be able to appear for long. Chapter 669. Yes. With Yi Qinxian's words, Bei Qing and Wind Feather didn't say anything else. What's more, although the master's words were indifferent, there was a hint of joy in them, and these attendants could still feel it. Their master was actually very happy that the evil doctor had manifested herself to come see him. But speaking of which, the evil doctor was too fierce. They didn't think that she would be able to find the method to use the Dragon Phoenix dual rings and manifest herself to come see their master. It had to be known that those were not ordinary magic tools. When their master had returned to take the 10-directional dragon ring, he had angered some people. Now, they were constantly thinking of causing trouble for their master. Luo Qingtong was carried down by Yi Qianxian. She lay on Yi Qianxian's chest, poking her head out to look. All around them were strange flowers and strange trees. With Luo Qingtong's eye technique, she could naturally see that each and every one of these strange flowers and trees contained an aura of spiritual strength. It was countless times stronger than the spiritual treasures that tens of thousands of people fought over in the true Spill continent. To put it bluntly, the so-called spiritual treasures of the true Spill continent were nothing but trash in front of these strange flowers and strange trees. And these strange flowers and strange trees, as far as Luo Qingtong's eyes could see, they were everywhere. No wonder it was said that the Blackfield's underworld revered never participated in the struggle for the treasures of the true Spill continent. In such a situation, it would be strange if Yi Qianxian took a fancy to the treasures of the true Spill continent. Was this the place that Elder Yu had mentioned? She didn't know where this place was. As Luo Qingtong was thinking, she suddenly felt Yi Qianxian's figure stop. Get out. The man's voice suddenly sounded out. In the next second, peng peng peng. Figures instantly screamed and flew out from the palace in front of them. Ah! The voices were charming, but they were slightly distorted. Luo Qingtong raised her eyebrows and looked at the figures flying in the air. Yes, the gauze she was wearing was very good. What should be covered was not covered, and what should be exposed was all exposed. Some of them were even blasted out of the building while naked. The white glow on her body was extremely bright under the moonlight in the dark night. Is that your palace? Luo Qingtong blinked and looked at Yi Qianxian. Her voice was no different from usual, but Bei Qing and Feng Yu broke out in cold sweat. Looking at their master's face, which was even darker than usual when he was furious, the two of them knelt down bitterly. Master, please don't be angry. It's our fault for not fulfilling our duties. These people were really everywhere. How long had it been since they left? He had actually stuffed a bunch of people in, and the evil doctor just had to bump into them. Looking at his master's ugly face and the strong murderous intent in his eyes, Feng Yu felt that he had to explain for his master. Otherwise, his master would go crazy. Thinking of this, he quickly said, Lord Evil Doctor, please don't misunderstand. These people have nothing to do with Master. They were all deliberately stuffed in here. When he said this, he didn't know how to continue. Yi Qianxian had a special physique, the heavenly vein body, which was incomparably tyrannical. Everyone wanted to have him as their heir. Especially those people. They wanted his master to die, but they also wanted him to leave behind his bloodline. Originally, under his master's ruthless methods, they had already stopped. Chapter 670. But some time ago, there was news that his master had a child outside, and it caused an uproar here. There were all kinds of people trying to give him women. There were even people who wanted to go to the true Spill continent. His master came back to deal with this matter. But how could he tell this to the evil doctor? Was he supposed to say, Sorry, Lord Evil Doctor. We thought you were pregnant with Master's child, so we made a big mistake. Feng Yu felt that if he really said that, his fate would be worse than being punished by his master. For a moment, his voice weakened. At this moment, Yi Qianxian's cold voice sounded. Because you are pregnant with my child, they can't wait to give you women. Pfft. As soon as Yi Qianxian finished speaking, Luo Qingtong and Bei Qing's Feng Yu almost choked. Oh my God. Master said it out loud. He said it out loud. Bei Qing and Feng Yu were both thinking the same thing. Luo Qingtong's eyes widened, and she looked at him with a dumbfounded expression. I. When did I get pregnant with your child? Even someone as evil as Luo Qingtong was stunned by Yi Qianxian's words. Have some shame. Have some shame in the way you speak. They didn't do anything between them. This man was stuffed with a bunch of beauties, and he blamed her. When I was in the Luo family, the imperial family of Tianyu told me. Yi Qianxian's expression was indifferent. They said it's been 3 months. At that time, everyone heard it. If it weren't for this, Bei Qing and Feng Yu wouldn't have misunderstood, and the news wouldn't have spread here. He lowered his head and looked at Luo Qingtong's belly. He raised his eyebrows and said, So, the child isn't mine? You have another man? F***ck. Luo Qingtong hadn't cursed in a long time. Damn the imperial family of Tianyu. If she knew they were slandering her like this, she wouldn't have let them die so easily. Especially Emperor Tianyu's group, it was too easy for them. Luo Qingtong gnashed her teeth. She only knew that the royal family of Tianyu wanted her and the Luo family. She didn't know that these people could even make up a story about her pregnancy. How much did they want you and Mo to be cuckolded? Could the royal family of the empire have any sense of shame? Luo Qingtong felt a little depressed. She then looked at Yi Qianxian and said, So, they thought that I was pregnant with your child, so they had all kinds of ideas about you and stuffed people into your side? If that was the case, then it was really her fault. Yi Qianxian narrowed his eyes. My heavenly vein's body is incomparably powerful. Yi Qianxian didn't finish his words, but Luo Qingtong already understood what he meant. The heavenly vein body was incomparably powerful, and Yi Qianxian couldn't live past 28 years old. Those people obviously wanted to keep his children. If someone inherited his talent and physique, wouldn't that be the best way to control puppets? Moreover, even if they didn't inherit his powerful physique completely, it would be amazing if they could inherit half of it. What did those people think he was? A tool to reproduce? Were they so sure that this man was dead? Luo Qingtong felt a burst of anger in her heart. She raised her head and looked at the man's handsome face. She said word by word, Don't worry about them. Yi Qianxian, you won't die. She would save him. Chapter 671. Luo Qingtong's soul did not last long with Yi Qianxian and soon dissipated. Her consciousness returned to her body, and Luo Qingtong's eyes narrowed. She would definitely save that man. Once she settled the matter with her grandfather, she would use all her strength to increase her strength. She did not believe that the heavenly pulse constitution could not be saved. Even if she had to go against the heavens, she would save him. Luo Qingtong had been reckless all her life and had never believed in fate. She only knew that no one could stop her from doing what she wanted to do. Luo Qingtong left the Tianyu Branch Academy the next day. She had already informed Little Overlord Yuan and the others. Song Cheng, on the other hand, had gone to the dormitory to look for Luo Qingtong after she had settled the matter with the Grand Dean. However, he could not find her. He had only left a note saying that he had something urgent to attend to and had left first. Looking at the note, Luo Qingtong frowned slightly. She did not know why Song Cheng had concealed his identity as a saint and stayed in the Tianyu Branch Academy. However, the latter had exposed his hidden identity for her. She did not know if it had anything to do with this urgent matter. Thinking of this, Luo Qingtong immediately sent a message to Blackfield and asked them to investigate Song Cheng's identity. However, Luo Qingtong did not know if Song Cheng's name was an alias, so she did not know if they could find any information. After settling the matter here, Luo Qingtong rushed into the spirit ship and headed for the Chu Sacred Dynasty. At the same time, in the Chu Sacred Dynasty's imperial palace, In a remote corner courtyard, Elder Luo, wearing a eunuch's uniform, sneaked to the corner of the courtyard and whistled towards the sky. Instantly, a strong person wearing Black Field's uniform appeared in front of him. Elder Luo asked nervously, "How is it? Has the news been sent out? Has Qingtong received it?" "Evil Dr. Ghost Eye has received the news and ordered us to protect Elder Luo," the Black Field person said respectfully. Someone who could casually enter the Chu Imperial Palace without being discovered was naturally not an ordinary expert. Although this Black Field powerhouse wasn't one of Yi Qianxian's subordinates, he was still a Black Field city lord. He was very close to Yi Qianxian and naturally knew Luo Qingtong's identity. In fact, he was sent by Yi Qianxian to take care of grandfather Luo so that nothing would happen to him. Her Excellency said that she would be here soon. The Black Field powerhouse reported the information he had received regarding Luo Qingtong. Huh? Grandpa Luo was dumbfounded. No way. He hurriedly said, "Didn't I tell you to tell her not to worry about me? I'll be fine here." Why did his precious granddaughter have to rush over? Thinking that Yan Shi and Luo Qingtong might bump into each other, grandfather Luo felt a headache coming on. What should he do? On one side was the person he loved deeply, and on the other was his most beloved granddaughter. If the two of them met, he didn't want to see anything happen. Hurry up and tell her not to come over. Her Excellency's decision, we have no right to interfere, the Black Field powerhouse said in a low voice. Luo Qingtong was their future mistress. If she wanted to come, she could come. No one could stop her. Grandfather Luo looked at him gloomily and wanted to say something. Swoosh. Right at this moment, the expert from the Black Domain suddenly vanished before him. As if sensing something, grandfather Luo shrunk his neck and hurriedly left. At this moment, a cold voice suddenly came from not far behind him. Chapter 672. Hearing this voice, Old Master Luo's heart instantly trembled. No, I didn't. He shrunk his neck and turned around, looking at the corridor diagonally opposite. Empress Dowager Yan Shi walked in from behind the arched door, surrounded by a group of maidservants. The woman's posture was graceful and noble, her right hand resting on the hand of a personal maidservant, the fierce look in her eyes not dispersing. That pair of phoenix eyes stared at him coldly. You didn't? Yan Shi sneered, her eyes sweeping across this remote and calm courtyard. If you didn't, what are you doing here? She received the news that he would come to this remote courtyard for a few days in a row. Looking at the corner where Old Master Luo was standing, the fierce look in Yan Shi's eyes became even heavier. This empress said, Luo Tong, without this empress's order, you can't go anywhere. Didn't you come here to sneak away? Old Master Luo's face was bitter. He really didn't. He just came to pass a message, telling his precious granddaughter not to come looking for him, so as to avoid confronting her. But he didn't dare to say these words to Yan Shi. Just as he stuttered and couldn't say a word, Empress Dowager Yan Shi had already waved her hand fiercely. Search for this empress. The fierce look in her eyes was obvious. She wanted to see who was contacting Luo Tong in the Chu Imperial Palace. Was it Prince Ning's group? If it was them, Luo Tong's identity would have been discovered. Thinking so, Empress Dowager Yan Shi looked at Old Master Luo with a complicated gaze. As the Empress Dowager of the Chu Imperial Palace, it was actually extremely dangerous for her to force a man to stay in the Chu Imperial Palace. Even if her people had controlled most of the Imperial Palace, there were still places she couldn't take care of. In this world, there were always countless loopholes waiting for people to take advantage of. Once Luo Tong's identity was discovered and used, what awaited her would be eternal damnation. So many years of planning would all be ruined. But, she just couldn't send this man away. After not seeing him for decades, this man was so old. Yan Shi thought that she would despise him, disgust him, and forget him. But she didn't expect that she would still love him. What right did this man have? He had clearly aged to such an extent. Back then, he had believed the words of others and mistakenly thought that she was having an affair with someone else. He had caused the death of their child. It was clear that he had married a new bride after her, and the entire Luo clan was flourishing. Why couldn't she forget him? She still loved him. Even now, he was constantly trying to escape and hiding things from her. She still had to worry about him being used by others. She gritted her teeth and looked at grandfather Luo. The latter felt a pang of guilt under her gaze. I really didn't want to run away. He was just passing on a message. Shut up. Whether or not you want to escape, I will naturally investigate. The voice of Empress Dowager Yanxi of Great Chu was cold. At this moment, the people around her returned from their investigation. Empress Dowager, there are no suspicious signs. Empress Dowager, there are no traces of anyone else. A group of people reported one after another. Old Master Luo heaved a sigh of relief. As expected of someone from the Black Field. Good. Look, I really didn't want to escape, Old Master Luo hurriedly said. Then what are you doing here? Empress Dowager Yanxi of Great Chu looked at him coldly. Luo Tong, this is the Imperial Palace of Great Chu. If you don't want to die, be obedient and don't interact with any strange people. She still didn't believe that it was a coincidence that he came here. However, she still felt much more at ease after finding no traces of anyone. Chapter 673. I'm here to carve this. As he spoke, he took out something that he had stayed up late to carve from his sleeve. Didn't you say that you wanted a hairpin like this? Master Luo didn't say that she wanted him to carve a wooden hairpin like this for her. It was just that back then, he was young and frivolous, wholeheartedly focused on cultivation and his brothers, so he never fulfilled his promise to her. She was living very well now, so Master Luo didn't want to mention their past and remind her of those unhappy things in the past. But this was something that he had promised to carve for her in the past. So he wanted to fulfill that promise, as compensation for the guilt he felt for her all these years. If he hadn't been obsessed with cultivation and forming a team, he wouldn't have neglected her and the child, and he wouldn't have ignored the ambitions of his so-called good brothers, leading to a big mistake back then. Fortunately, he saved the child back then, otherwise he wouldn't even be able to see her face now. She looked at the jadewood hairpin in his hand. The color and style were all her favorites back then. She used to like the iris flower very much, so she pestered him to carve a wooden hairpin like this for her. She wanted the iris flower as the style, the green wood as the branches, and the willow moon as the jade. But, slap! She raised her hand and slapped away the jade hairpin that Master Luo happily stretched out in front of her. With a slap, the jade hairpin was instantly hit to the ground by her, and then the woman's gorgeous golden jade shoes ruthlessly stepped on it. With the strength of Empress Dowager Yanxi's foot, the jade hairpin was instantly embedded in the bluestone ground by her foot. Luo Tong. She raised her head, looking at him with a gaze full of sarcasm on her beautiful face. Don't you know how old the color and style of your wooden hairpin are? You're still using something from decades ago to curry favor with this empress. Do you think this empress is still the Yanxi who hasn't seen the world? Do you think this empress still likes this kind of thing? As she spoke, she raised her hand to support the back of the hand of the maidservant beside her, and turned to leave with the group of people. If you've forgotten, this empress doesn't mind reminding you again. I am Empress Dowager Yanxi of Great Chu. The Empress Dowager Yanxi, the regent of the entire Great Chu sacred dynasty, the millions of miles of territory, and countless countries bow their heads. By my side, there is a servant girl who sweeps the floor. Even the hairpin on her head is better than the one you carved. Are you trying to humiliate me by taking out such a wooden hairpin? In the future, don't take out such disgusting things in front of me. Old Master Luo stood rooted to the ground as he watched her leave. There was still a happy expression on his face, but the light in his eyes dimmed bit by bit. He lowered his head and looked at the wooden hairpin that was trampled on the ground. He slowly squatted down. He wanted to dig out the hairpin. However, Yanxi had used too much strength and the remaining aura on it was extremely strong. He couldn't move it at all. Old Master Luo stared blankly at the hairpin. At this moment, the voice of the Blackfield powerhouse rang in his ears. "Old man, do you need me to help you take out that wooden hairpin?" "No need." Chapter 674. Anyway, if he took it out, the person he wanted to give it to would not want it. Since that was the case, there was no need to take it out. He did not cherish it back then. Now, even if he wanted to make up for it, there was no chance. Old Master Luo left with heavy footsteps. Not long after he left, a figure suddenly appeared at the place where he was standing. Looking at the wooden hairpin embedded in the floor, the person raised her hand. In the blink of an eye, the wooden hairpin was in her hand. The moonlight of the dark night penetrated through the clouds at this moment and shone on the person's face. She was beautiful, graceful, and calm. It was Empress Dowager Yanxi of the Great Chu. Her tender white hand held the wooden hairpin. She tightened and loosened her grip several times, but in the end, she put the wooden hairpin into her bosom and turned to leave. As he watched her leave, the expert from the Black Domain who had been hiding in the dark thought for a moment and decided to pass on the message. Swoosh! In the spirit ship, Luo Qingtong received the message from the Blackfield. She opened it and instantly raised her eyebrows. TSK, looks like there's a story between your grandfather and Empress Dowager Yanxi of the Great Chu. Little Pig jumped on her shoulder and looked at the message. Yes. But since it's confirmed that she has feelings for my grandfather, this matter will be easy to handle. Luo Qingtong said. She had never known what Empress Dowager Yanxi of the Great Chu thought of Old Master Luo. If she said she had no interest in Old Master Luo, she was also willing to place a life and death interdependence curse on her grandfather and use her own life to share the danger for him. But if she was interested in Old Master Luo, her attitude was indeed not very good. From the looks of it, there was probably some sort of misunderstanding between them. As long as this was resolved, there would be no problem. As for the difference in status between Empress Dowager Yanxi of the Great Chu and Old Master Luo, Luo Qingtong did not care at all. As long as the two of them wanted to be together, Luo Qingtong would definitely let her grandfather marry her grandly. Swoosh! Luo Qingtong steered the spirit vessel and continued to head towards the Great Chu sacred dynasty. After about half a month, Luo Qingtong's figure appeared in the holy capital of the Great Chu sacred dynasty. Lord Evil Doctor. As soon as she appeared, she released a signal. In an instant, a Blackfield member appeared in front of her. It was the man from the Blackfield who was in charge of taking care of Grandfather Luo. Luo Qingtong looked at him and nodded. How's the situation with my grandfather? Everything is fine with the old man. Evil Doctor, do you need me to bring you in to visit the old man? Only people from the Blackfield would dare to say something like bringing people into the sacred dynasty's palace. There's no need. I'll go by myself. You wait outside. If I need you, I'll call you. Luo Qingtong's eye technique allowed her to sneak into any place without fear. This time, she went in to ask Old Master Luo some questions. She didn't plan to bring anyone else with her. Yes. The Blackfield cultivator responded respectfully and instantly disappeared into the air. Looking at his actions, Luo Qingtong instantly raised her eyebrows. A Saint Realm cultivator? That man was really considerate to send such a person to take care of her grandfather. Swoosh! Luo Qingtong's figure swept in the direction of the Great Chu sacred dynasty's palace in an instant. She did not call out to the Blackfield cultivator. Chapter 675. Grandfather. In the Chu Imperial Palace, Grandfather Luo was sweeping the floor in a daze when he suddenly heard a familiar voice. He was so scared that he almost dropped the broom in his hand. Qingtong. Grandpa Luo looked around and saw his precious granddaughter waving at him from a corner under the eaves of the palace opposite him. Oh my God. Grandfather Luo's eyes widened as he stared at his granddaughter's beautiful face that was as beautiful as a flower. He immediately threw the broom in his hand away and ran over to her. He looked left and right for a while but didn't see the figure of the Blackfield cultivator. He became anxious. You came alone? He lowered his voice and said, "Nonsense. What was this place?" "The Chu's Sacred Dynasty Palace." Without the Blackfield cultivator, his precious granddaughter dared to barge in. Grandfather Luo didn't know that Luo Qingtong dared to barge into the Tianyu Imperial Palace when she was a martial general. He even cleaned out the other party's royal treasury. Now that she was a martial king, sneaking into the Chu Imperial Palace was a piece of cake. "Grandfather, I'm here to take you back." Luo Qingtong looked at Grandfather Luo and carefully observed his expression. Hearing this, Grandfather Luo suddenly became hesitant. Tong, I don't want to go back." Grandfather Luo squatted in front of Luo Qingtong and said gloomily, "Don't worry about Grandfather, I'm fine here." "Is it because of the Chu Empress Dowager Yanxi?" Luo Qingtong looked at him and smiled. "Grandfather, you like her?" Cough cough. Grandfather Luo's face suddenly turned red when Luo Qingtong suddenly asked this. "Oh, you're just a child, so you don't know." He put on a straight face and tried to pretend to be dignified as he waved his hand. "Anyway, I'm not going back. Grandfather is fine here. Hurry up and leave, don't be discovered." Old Master Luo was very nervous when he said this. He was afraid that Luo Qingtong would be discovered and something would happen to her. He was also afraid that if she got into a conflict with Yanxi, he wouldn't know who to help. Luo Qingtong looked at him and raised her eyebrows. She wanted to say something. Suddenly, a clamor came from the front. "Assassin! Assassins! Protect the Empress Dowager!" Hearing this voice, Grandfather Luo's heart skipped a beat. He immediately ran towards the back of the palace. Luo Qingtong's lips twitched when she heard Old Master Luo's voice. His grandfather seemed to have completely fallen for it. Fortunately, Empress Dowager Yanxi of Great Chu was not heartless to him, otherwise, this matter would be difficult to handle. As Luo Qingtong thought so, she instantly jumped up and silently rushed to the back hall where the Empress Dowager was resting. Old Master Luo was stopped when he reached the square at the back of the palace. There was a pile of corpses on the ground. Empress Dowager Yanxi of Great Chu was surrounded by a group of maidservants and guards. Her face was flushed, not knowing whether it was due to anger or because of it. She coldly waved away the maidservant's hand that was supporting her. She pointed to the corpses on the ground and ordered, "Drag all of them out. After whipping their bodies, hang them on the palace walls for public display. In addition, thoroughly investigate this matter." As she spoke, her body swayed slightly. Yanxi fiercely bit the tip of her tongue, barely managing to stand under the sharp pain. "Now, all of you, leave this place for me. Without my order, no one is allowed to enter." She turned and went straight into the inner palace. Luo Qingtong arrived at this time. Chapter 676. Grandfather. She waved at Old Master Luo. Seeing that he didn't see her, she immediately transmitted a message to him. "Come here, I'll take you to see Empress Dowager Yanxi. She's poisoned." The moment Luo Qingtong said that, Old Master Luo, who was originally very unwilling to leave the square in the inner palace, immediately ran over to her. Luo Qingtong's figure flashed and instantly changed to another blind spot. "Grandfather." She transmitted a message to call Master Luo over. When he saw her, he immediately said anxiously, "Qingtong, what did you say?" She is poisoned." His face was burning with anxiety and he completely didn't notice the playful smile on Luo Qingtong's face. "Yes." Luo Qingtong nodded. "It's very serious." She deliberately emphasized. "What?" Grandpa Luo raised his voice in an instant. "Then let's hurry over and cure her. His granddaughter is the evil Dr. Ghost Eye. She can definitely cure that poison." With that thought in mind, Old Master Luo grabbed Luo Qingtong's hand and was about to rush into the inner palace. "No." Luo Qingtong hurriedly pulled him back and said, "I can't cure that poison." "What? Even his granddaughter can't cure it? Master Luo looked at Luo Qingtong with a shocked expression, then said anxiously, Qingtong, don't joke around. How can his granddaughter not cure it? She's the evil Dr. Ghost Eye. Master Luo knew how good her medical skills were. Moreover, she could even save his cultivation and become famous in the Black Field. How can she not cure it? I really can't cure it, grandfather. Luo Qingtong looked at him and said seriously, she's been poisoned with the love poison, flower soul burial. She looked at Master Luo's dazed expression and said, although I can't cure it, grandfather, you can. Luo Qingtong said and winked at Master Luo. How can I cure it? I don't even know how to. Grandfather Luo stopped abruptly. His eyes widened as he stared at Luo Qingtong. Love, poison. He could solve it? It wasn't what he was thinking, right? Yes. Luo Qingtong looked at his shocked and speechless face. She didn't know whether to be happy or worried. She immediately held back her laughter and nodded. Burial of the flower soul, although the name is artistic, it is an extremely violent poison of love. Luo Qingtong looked at Grandfather Luo and said word by word, if the poisoned person can't find someone to detoxify the poison within a quarter of an hour, he will lose his mind and become extremely insane. She shrugged and looked at Grandpa Luo. Grandpa, you should know that it's not that I don't want to help her. I really can't do it. Luo Qingtong had an innocent look on her face. This love poison can only work if it's between a man and a woman, that. You know, right? So, it all depends on whether you are willing to sacrifice yourself or not. Or, you can find a guard for Empress Dowager. Before she finished her words, Grandpa Luo suddenly interrupted her. No. Old Master Luo roared at the top of his lungs. He looked at Luo Qingtong angrily and paced back and forth in front of her with his hands behind his back. There was an indescribable struggle in his heart. At this moment, Luo Qingtong's voice sounded, Grandfather, there's not much time left. If you don't want to, we can find a guard for Empress Dowager. After all, she saved your life, Chapter 677. Okay, Luo Qingtong looked at him and said with a smile, then I'll take you there, grandfather. Old Master Luo nodded with great difficulty, and then couldn't help but ask, Qingtong, you really can't cure it? He really couldn't take advantage of someone's perilous state like this. But he couldn't bear to see Yan Shi with someone else. Old Master Luo's heart was extremely tormented. Really? Luo Qingtong nodded vigorously. She really couldn't cure it. What if she cured her grandfather? Would he continue to have unrequited love? This was a rare opportunity. She didn't know who the assassin was, but it was definitely a godly assistant. Let's go, grandfather. I'll take you there. Otherwise, if we delay for too long, I'm afraid there will be problems with Empress Dowager Yan Shi. Thinking of what his precious granddaughter said, if they didn't find someone to cure the poison in a quarter of an hour, the poisoned person would become irrational and abnormal. Old Master Luo's expression turned cold. Yan Shi was the Empress Dowager of Great Chu. If someone saw her like that, wouldn't it be terrible? Thinking of this, he immediately urged his granddaughter, Qingtong, quickly take me there. At this time, Old Master Luo didn't care about being embarrassed. Okay. Luo Qingtong's eyes were smiling as she directly led Old Master Luo through the heavy guards, all the way into the inner hall where Empress Dowager Yan Shi was. In the inner hall, after Yan Shi ordered everyone to retreat, she quickly felt the discomfort around her. She gritted her teeth, drops of cold sweat suddenly appeared on her round jade-white forehead, and the redness on her cheeks was obvious. Damn it, that knife was poisoned. And it was a very strong poison. Yan Shi secretly hated herself for being affected by Luo Tong's matter. Otherwise, with her temperament and strength, how could she fall into the other party's trap? Those people had purposely smeared love poison on their swords to deal with her. The assassination was fake, but it was real to poison her and ruin her reputation. If she guessed correctly, it was Ning Wang's group who did it. in order to completely pull her down from the Empress Dowager's throne. She had taken so many precautions and done everything she could, but it had all been ruined by that man. Luo Tong. It's not enough that you hurt me once, this time you want to hurt me again. Yan Shi's breathing was heavy and her face flushed. Thinking that she was distracted by Luo Tong's matter and fell into someone's trap, she felt a burst of anger in her heart. Unable to suppress the boiling hot aura in her body several times, Yan Shi knew that the love poison she had been afflicted with was no small matter. In an instant, she was furious. Luo Tong, you bastard. As she spoke, she pulled out the jade hairpin that she carried around with her and threw it on the ground. At this moment, a crisp like a silver bell. Grandpa, Yan, Empress, is she calling? While speaking, Luo Tong and Luo Yan and Luo. Yan Luo, Yan, seeing Empress Dowager Yan Shi's weak and powerless appearance, Old Master Luo's heart was instantly shocked and he hurriedly came to help her. Chapter 678. You, don't touch me. Yan Shi's eyes were already misty. The effect of the poison was so amazing that she could barely control herself. Get out of here. She pointed at Old Master Luo and shouted. At this time, Empress Dowager Yan Shi had no time to think about how Luo Qingtong and Old Master Luo passed through the heavy guards and entered. Her only thought now was to make this man leave quickly. She would never show such a disgraceful state in front of him. And she would never let this man touch her. Seeing Empress Dowager Yan Shi like this, Old Master Luo felt a burst of heartache. He took a step forward and said, I know you hate me, but you've been poisoned now. If you don't stop, you won't be able to bear it. Old Master Luo didn't say that Empress Dowager Yan Shi would lose her mind and become extremely greedy. He was afraid that Yan Shi wouldn't be able to bear this stimulation. She was the Empress Dowager of Great Chu. She should be high and mighty and calm. Just take it that he took advantage of her perilous state and took the opportunity to attack her. If she wanted to hate someone, she would hate him. Thinking of this, he suddenly gritted his teeth and strode towards Empress Dowager Yan Shi. Stop right there. Seeing him coming over, Empress Dowager Yan Shi's heart was in a panic. She didn't want to have anything to do with this man anymore. She hated him and would never forgive him. Swish. Yan Shi raised her hand and a dagger was instantly placed across her neck. Luo Tong, if you dare to take another step forward, I will die here. Empress Dowager Yan Shi panted heavily, but the hand holding the dagger was extremely stable. She had been wrong once before, and she wouldn't make the same mistake a second time. Seeing Yan Shi's movements, Old Master Luo's figure froze in an instant. At this moment, Luo Qingtong's surprised voice suddenly sounded. Grandfather, what is this? Did you carve something? Your name is on it. As Luo Qingtong spoke, she picked up the green wooden hairpin that fell on the ground. She saw that wooden hairpin as soon as she entered the inner hall. After all, it was too conspicuous for such a crude wooden hairpin to appear in such a gorgeous and exquisite place. Only that silly grandfather of hers, who had placed all his attention on Empress Dowager Yan Shi, would not have noticed such an obvious thing. Luo Qingtong's voice sounded. In an instant, the two of them looked over. Then, Empress Dowager Yan Shi's face stiffened, while Grandfather Luo's face was full of surprise and disbelief. Jade wood hairpin? Looking at the jade hairpin in Luo Qingtong's hand, Grandfather Luo was pleasantly surprised. He looked at Empress Dowager Yan Shi in disbelief. Hadn't she already thrown away this jadewood hairpin? It was embedded in the floor of that remote and deserted courtyard, and couldn't be dug out even if one wanted to. Why would he appear here? It's you? Did you pick it up? Do you still have me in your heart? Grandpa Luo asked with a trembling voice. Empress Dowager Yan Shi gritted her teeth, desperately resisting the waves of heat and feeling in her body, not answering a word. At this moment, clang! Her hand seemed to be hit by something, and the dagger in her hand fell to the ground in an instant. Then, Luo Qingtong's voice sounded with a hint of laughter. Chapter 679. As she spoke, she pushed Empress Dowager Yan Shi into Old Master Luo's arms and stuffed a pill into his mouth. "Grandpa, eat this, there's a surprise." Luo Qingtong winked at Old Master Luo and pushed him forward. Rumble. As Luo Qingtong struck out, a crack suddenly appeared in the wall in front of Old Master Luo. "You!" Empress Dowager Yan Shi was shocked. She looked at Luo Qingtong in shock. The entrance to this crack was the secret passage she had built. It led to the place where she usually cultivated in seclusion and outside the palace. No one knew about it except her. How did this young girl know? Who was she? Before Empress Dowager Yan Shi could figure it out, her figure had already disappeared into the gap with Old Master Luo's figure. "Grandpa, I can only help you this much. Good luck." Looking at the two figures disappearing in front of her, Luo Qingtong's smile was indescribably evil. The pill she had just given Old Master Luo could temporarily restore his strength and appearance when he was young. The rest depended on her grandfather's strength. But now, she still had to help her grandfather keep an eye on them so that they wouldn't be disturbed. In fact, Luo Qingtong had hidden something from Old Master Luo. That was, what Empress Dowager Yan Shi had been poisoned with was not an ordinary aphrodisiac, but a kind of aphrodisiac. The name Flower Burial Soul was simply made up by Luo Qingtong. In fact, Luo Qingtong had never seen this kind of aphrodisiac before. It seemed to be newly developed by someone else. But Luo Qingtong had an eye technique. At that time, with the smell in the air and the poison on the assassin's knife, the female lead instantly analyzed the medicinal properties and effects of this drug. This kind of aphrodisiac was very fierce and insidious. Most of what Luo Qingtong said to Old Master Luo before was true. It even reduced the efficacy of the drug. In fact, this was a kind of sexual poison. Not only did it require a man and a woman to be together to release the poison, but it also required a man and a woman to be together. Moreover, she needed more than one man to do it. Otherwise, there would be no way for the effects of the medicine to dissipate. And this kind of lust, the more suppressed it was, the more intense it would be. In the end, the poisoned person would go crazy uncontrollably, lose their rationality, and finally rush out to rape the man. Of course, with Luo Qingtong here, the poison in Empress Dowager Yan Shi's body had long been weakened by her. Grandfather Luo alone was enough. This was to give Grandfather Luo a reason to feel at ease. Otherwise, Luo Qingtong would have directly gotten rid of him. However, since those people had poisoned Empress Dowager Yan Shi, there would definitely be follow-up actions later. The biggest possibility was that he would come to the inner palace to catch them in the act. Luo Qingtong couldn't let them disturb her grandfather and Empress Dowager Yan Shi's happy occasion. As Luo Qingtong thought of this, the bloody light in her eyes flickered. In the next second, she raised her hand. The medicinal materials in her spatial ring were taken out by her. She held them in mid-air, kneaded them into balls of medicinal liquid, and then fused and refined them. However, in an instant, a ball of venom appeared in her palm. The aura of the poison was similar to the aphrodisiac in Empress Dowager Yan Shi's body, but the medicinal effect was many times stronger. Chapter 680. Especially the person who refined this poison. Luo Qingtong's eyes narrowed slightly. She could feel that the poisonous liquid was very fresh. It was less than a day ago. In other words, the person who refined this poisonous liquid might still be in the holy capital of Great Chu, hiding behind the person who wanted to harm Empress Dowager Yan Shi behind the scenes. Luo Qingtong didn't mind using her own means to teach the other party a lesson. At the same time, she could also vent her grandfather's anger. Empress Dowager Yan Shi of Great Chu was her grandfather's sweetheart. If she hadn't arrived today, wouldn't her grandfather be heartbroken if something happened to Empress Dowager Yan Shi? Thinking of this, Luo Qingtong's eyes flashed fiercely. Hurting her grandfather was hurting her. Let's see if the person behind the scenes could bear her revenge. Whoosh! Luo Qingtong spread out the medicinal liquid in her hand. In an instant, a stream of aura dissipated in the inner hall, integrated into the light pink poisonous fog that Empress Dowager Yen she had forced out before, and spread everywhere. In an instant, it covered the entire inner hall. Whoosh! After doing all this, Luo Qingtong's figure flashed and directly jumped to the top dome of the palace. She hid in a blind spot, ready to watch the show. While Empress Dowager Yen she was poisoned, outside the imperial palace of Great Chu, in a luxurious royal mansion. A guard hurriedly entered the main hall and reported to King Ning, who was sitting in the middle of the hall, in a low voice, "Your Highness, news from the palace, the matter has been done." Good. Hearing this news, King Ning, who was talking to someone in the main hall, was suddenly overjoyed. He suddenly slapped the table and stood up, laughing loudly, "Ah! I didn't expect that woman to really fall for it. I've long seen that her recent state was not right. After trying today, it really succeeded. Haha." He raised his head and laughed, then looked at the white-robed man sitting in the hall and said, "This time, it's all thanks to the help of the Heavenly Doctor. If it weren't for the help of the Heavenly Doctor, I'm afraid it wouldn't have been so easy to succeed. However, Your Excellency's sacred hand, is there really no problem with the medicinal liquid you mentioned? Is that lust poison really so strong that it can't be stopped?" He narrowed his eyes as he looked at the white-robed man. "You should know that Yen she is not weak at all. There's no lack of experts in the palace. If Ning Wang wanted to pull Yen she down from the Empress Dowager's throne, he would definitely ruin her reputation and make her unable to make a comeback. If the aphrodisiac in her body was cured or suppressed, then this matter would be difficult to handle. Your Highness, don't worry. I can guarantee that no one will be able to cure the medicine that I've refined." The white-robed man's face was hidden behind a blank mask. At this moment, he was looking up at King Ning. His voice was hoarse and deep, revealing absolute confidence. "Good. Haha." King Ning laughed and walked out. With Sir Sacred Hand's words, this king is relieved. Everyone says that evil Dr. Ghost Eye's alchemy skills are unparalleled. In my opinion, it's because she hasn't come to the Holy Dynasty yet, and hasn't faced Heavenly Dr. Sage Hand yet. Otherwise, she can't be compared to Your Excellency at all. She's just a person who came out of the Blackfield sub-city. Who knows where she got those pills from? If she really refined them, why would she hide the head and show the tail?" King Ning said, his face full of disdain. Chapter 681. At this moment, a maidservant beside the white-robed man snorted coldly and said, "How can that evil Dr. Gui Tong be compared to my master?" Her words were full of arrogance and disdain, as if comparing Luo Qingtong with the white-robed man was a great insult. Ting Qin. Hearing this, the white-robed man immediately reprimanded in a low voice. The maidservant immediately stopped talking. "Haha. Your Excellency's sacred hand, don't be angry. Your maidservant is right. Comparing her with you is really an insult to your status. It's my fault." Prince Ning laughed loudly. "I'll immediately lead my men and gather a group of important officials to enter the palace and request an audience with the Empress Dowager." When he said this, the smile on his face instantly turned cold, becoming abnormally gloomy and icy. After all, the Empress Dowager was attacked by an assassin. As officials, we should be anxious and be doubly concerned. After he said this, he immediately strode out of the room. "Your Excellency's sacred hand, please wait here. When I'm done, I'll definitely reward you handsomely." "All right, then I'll wait for Your Highness to succeed." The white-robed man stood up and congratulated him. Ha ha ha. Prince Ning led his men and left. Looking at the departing figure, the white-robed man tapped his index finger. Then, he suddenly waved his hand and set up an invisible comprehension boundary around himself. "Kneel." The white-robed man's voice was cold. It was the voice of a young girl, completely different from the low and hoarse voice from before. "Yes. Your Highness." The maidservant called Ting Qin also knew that she had said the wrong thing. The moment the white-robed man spoke, she immediately knelt down. Do you remember what I said before? You have to be careful with your words and actions outside. Don't let others discover your identity. The white-robed man's voice was slightly angry. Your maidservant also feels wronged for your highness. That evil Dr. Gui Tong came out of nowhere. How can he be compared to your highness? Your highness used to be low-key and kept a low profile. Otherwise, how could that evil Dr. Gui Tong have the chance to become famous, and even more impossible to be appreciated by the Blackfields Ming Zun? The maidservant called Ting Qin said. This servant feels injustice for his highness. That kind of person is not worthy of your highness' reputation. Enough. The white-robed man sat down, his voice indifferent. Since you know that she's not worthy to be mentioned in the same breath as me, then don't say anything more. A person with an undeserved reputation will naturally give himself away. Don't worry about it. As she spoke, she raised her hand and took off the mask on her face. Looking at Ting Qin, she said, on the other hand, have you found out anything about the Tianyu Empire? Why did evil Dr. Gui Tong want to destroy them? In addition, what's wrong with Luo Qingtong's eyes? The white-robed man's voice was cold. The face she turned to look at was that of His Highness Feng, one of the Great Yong's sacred dynasty. Your Highness, we're still investigating what happened in the Tianyu Empire. We don't know the specific reason yet, but it should be related to the Luo family. Ting Qin reported in a low voice, Evil Dr. Ghost, I may have some relationship with the Luo family. Luo Qingtong's eyes should also be cured by her. Oh. Is that so? Feng Wan's eyes narrowed. Then the person who investigated my identity, fought with me from a distance, and used poison to injure me, was it also her? Feng Wan's heart froze. That was the first time she had lost in a competition of poison techniques. The other party had used her own poison, which was a great humiliation. However, whether or not the other party was evil Dr. Gui Tong was still up for debate. Feng Wan did not think that evil Dr. Gui Tong had such strength. Because from the information she had obtained, evil Dr. Gui Tong seemed to be a weak youth whose gender was hard to distinguish. Among people of the same age as her, it was impossible for anyone to have such strength in poison techniques. Chapter 682. I don't know. The other party was very secretive. We haven't found out who did it yet. At that time, Luo Qingtong had used Luo Xining to lure him out. Who would have thought that the Luo family and Luo Qingtong, who was only in the martial general realm at that time, could kill a martial royal realm expert? Feng Wan's men were investigating in the wrong direction. Many experts went to the Nine Magi Mountain, including Ming Zun, so we couldn't find the culprit. Qin reported. There are no traces of the black field? Feng Wan's eyes drooped, and her eyelashes fluttered like butterfly wings. When she mentioned the black field, a hint of jealousy appeared in her eyes. That black field Ming Zun, if she had known that he would appreciate the evil Dr. Ghost Eyes because of her amazing medical and alchemy skills, and protect her under his wings, she would have become a heavenly doctor long ago. There was no need to painstakingly seek an audience with the other party, and in the end settle for the next best thing, Yu Wenma. In the end, Yu Wenma didn't know how to appreciate her kindness, and refused to break off the engagement. As the princess of the Great Yong dynasty, she naturally couldn't be entangled with a man who was already engaged. Even if his body constitution was compatible with hers, and would benefit her greatly, it was impossible. But she couldn't take this lying down. In addition, she heard that Yu Wenma's fiancé had a pair of strange eyes like her. Thinking of the various secrets and benefits that his pair of strange pupils might involve, Feng Yuan naturally had someone pass on the news that he had feelings for Yu Wenmo to Yu Wenshui. She didn't have to worry about what happened next. But she didn't expect that the Luo family, a family from a low-level country, would be fine after being attacked by the Tianyu royal family. And Luo Qingtong even survived Yu Wenshui and Luo Xining's scheme. Moreover, that pair of eyes that should have been crippled were still fine. But it seemed that her eyes were similar to her own, and they were gone. And there seemed to be something wrong with her newly recovered eyes, as they were often filled with a faint red color. Unfortunately, it would be better if he was blind. However, since the other party was fine, Feng Yuan didn't bother to deal with the Luo family and Luo Qintong. Not to mention, the Luo clan might be related to the evil Dr. Ghost Eye. Feng Yuan did not want his actions to fall into the eyes of the most honorable man in the Black Field. Feng Yuan felt a burst of joy in his heart when he realized that the other party wasn't heartless, but rather that the method he had used was wrong. If the heretic physician Ghost Eyes could attract his attention and protection, then he, a heavenly divine physician, could do the same. Feng Yuan's heart pounded violently as he recalled the man's handsome face and terrifying strength that he had caught a glimpse of back then. Only such a powerful man was worthy of her. Only an outstanding woman like her could stand shoulder to shoulder with him. Within the entire True Spill continent, only she was worthy enough to match him. Evil Dr. Ghost Eye in him, from the beginning to the end, did not belong to the righteous path. She would let that man know that only she was the most suitable for him. No. Ting Qin said respectfully. Good. Feng Yuan's smile was cold and full of confidence. Let's wait here for the Great Chu to change. Messing with the harem is immoral. Even if the Great Chu's Empress Dowager Yan Shi is more capable, she can't escape unscathed this time. Without her, the Great Chu will be mine sooner or later. King Ning will also be my puppet sooner or later. When the two dynasties merged, it would be easier to deal with the other two dynasties. At that time, the entire eastern region would be her world. Chapter 683. Great Chu Imperial Palace. After Ning Wang went out, he gathered a group of important officials and men and headed to the Great Chu Imperial Palace. The important officials who were called out by him were all a little surprised, not knowing what he was thinking. The assassination of the Empress Dowager was blocked, so not everyone could get the news. Your Highness Ning Wang, what is the matter that requires you to lead your men into the palace? An imperial censor asked with a frown. He looked at King Ning with suspicion in his eyes. Leading the troops into the palace, did Ning Wang want to do something? But seeing him gather his men, it didn't seem like it. The imperial censor suppressed the doubts in his heart and asked in a deep voice, waiting to see what Ning Wang would say. Hearing his words, the other important officials also looked over. Humph. Imperial Censor Ma, are you suspecting that I have bad intentions? Prince Ning sneered as he looked at the censor who spoke, as well as the ministers who were looking at him. These people were guarding against his usurpation every day, but they didn't know that he had already succeeded. Now, he was going to take them to witness that moment. Yan Shi, that woman, had messed up the harem. At that time, let's see if these people still had the face to control the court with her and guard against him. The world of Great Chu would be his sooner or later. No, it should be said that when his imperial brother, the late emperor, died, the throne should have been his. But Yan Shi, that woman, interfered and helped one of his imperial brother's bloodline to the throne. He didn't expect that woman, who had been silent in the harem all these years and had never had any sense of existence, would be so iron-blooded and outstanding when she stood up. He had forcefully suppressed all of his arrangements. Together with the group of old officials left behind by imperial brother, they were able to completely suppress him. Even when he was so close to obtaining it, he still failed at the last step. Now, he wanted to see how Yan Shi, that woman, would face these old officials of the late emperor. Would these people still have the face to stop him from ascending the throne? Ning Wang sneered and said, I received news that the Empress Dowager was assassinated in the palace and is now in seclusion. I don't know if something has happened. I am worried about the throne of Great Chu, so I naturally have to lead people to the palace to investigate and see what the situation is inside. Is it already in the hands of the thieves? But you also know that this prince has always been at odds with the Empress Dowager. Since I'm going to the palace, I naturally have to bring all of you along, lest others say that I'm plotting against you. But I didn't expect that even if I called you all, you would still doubt my sincerity. King Ning said righteously. However, only he knew what the truth was. The matter of Yan Shi messing up the harem was already set in stone. Bringing these important ministers along was naturally to let them witness all of this with their own eyes, and then completely beat Yan Shi to the bottom of the valley. And these people were the people he arranged in the palace to deal with Yan Shi. The latter's own forces were pretty good. There were many people in the Great Chu royal palace. If Ning Wang wanted to find fault with Yan Shi, it was naturally impossible for him to not bring people into the palace. What's more, Yan Shi had been opposing him all these years. Ning Wang already hated her to the core. It wasn't easy for him to succeed in his scheme this time, so he naturally had to completely eliminate the source of trouble. These people were not only to deal with Yan Shi's men, but also to prevent the other party from escaping. Today, he wanted Yan Shi to never be able to make a comeback. Chapter 684. What? The Empress Dowager was assassinated? Everyone was shocked when they heard the news. Especially Censor Ma, who questioned King Ning. He didn't care about the sarcasm in King Ning's words and hurriedly said, "Then let's go to the palace quickly and see how the Empress Dowager is doing." The Empress Dowager being assassinated was a big deal. If something happened to her, no one in the whole Chu could stop King Ning. When the latter succeeded the throne, the whole Chu country would be overturned. Those who stood against King Ning from the beginning would have no way to survive. Thinking so, the group hurriedly followed King Ning to the Chu imperial palace. It wasn't that no one thought that this assassination might be King Ning's doing. But the Empress Dowager's safety was more important. At this time, no one cared about this. Good. I'll take you into the palace now. King Ning's eyes were gloomy and proud as he led the group to the Chu palace. Because of the presence of a group of important ministers, the group entered the palace almost unimpeded and arrived at the inner hall where Empress Dowager Yan Shi lived. Your Highness King Ning. Ministers. The Empress Dowager has ordered that no one is allowed to approach the inner hall. The guards outside were loyal to their duties. When they saw King Ning leading a group of ministers, they immediately stopped them outside the square. Humph. The Empress Dowager was assassinated and you people still want to hide it. Now you want to stop us. Don't you know that if something happens to the Empress Dowager, you can't escape death? Get out of my way. Prince Ning had brought his men into the palace for this very moment. He looked at the inner hall square that was guarded by many guards and surrounded like an iron bucket. He couldn't help but sneer in his heart. With such a strict defense, that woman Yan Shi really fell into the trap. She might be in the inner palace right now, and who knows how many men she's with. Empress Dowager Yan Shi of Great Chu should naturally be admired by everyone. With that thought in mind, he sneered and waved his hand. Immediately, the group of people behind him rushed out and pushed aside the group of inner palace protectors in front of him. Your Highness King Ning. Those guards in the inner hall were forced to retreat step by step. They wanted to attack but didn't dare to. After all, Prince Ning pretended to be concerned about the Empress Dowager and had a group of important officials behind him. They couldn't convict him of harboring evil intentions. However, the Empress Dowager ordered them to guard the place to the death and not allow anyone to enter. Immediately, the group of people fell into a dilemma. Prince Ning sneered as he led the men behind him to close in, forcing the guards in the square of the inner palace to the gate of the inner palace. Looking at the closed door and seeing that there was no sound from inside despite such a big noise, the sneer and complacency in King Ning's eyes became more intense. At this moment, Yan Shi probably couldn't care less about these things. She didn't know if the men she called in could satisfy her. If he couldn't, he still had people here. Bring it to her now. Thinking of this, King Ning suddenly shouted coldly, "There's no movement in the inner hall. You bastards. If the Empress Dowager's treatment is delayed and something happens to the Empress Dowager's body, this prince wants your lives." As he spoke, he ordered sternly, "Kick open this door for this king." Boom. Chapter 685. 2. Ning Wang followed a group of private guards who had rushed into the inner hall, his face full of pride and arrogance as he wanted to see Yan Shi's ugly performance. However, as soon as he entered the inner hall with a group of private guards from the prince's mansion, his expression changed. In the hall, there was no scene of Empress Dowager Yan Shi entangling with men as he had imagined. On the contrary, it was quiet and empty. There was no one. How could this be? Empress Dowager Yan Shi clearly entered the inner hall and didn't come out. Since the assassination, his men had been keeping an eye on this side. This information couldn't be wrong. Prince Ning's face was cold, and he soon realized that there must be a secret passage in the inner hall. Humph. Yan Shi, that woman, thought she could hide in this way? Prince Ning sneered in his heart. He waved his hand and was about to order his private guards to search the hall. Anyway, the reason was ready-made. The Empress Dowager disappeared after being assassinated. Who knew if she was kidnapped by thieves? As courtiers, they naturally had to worry about the world first. For the safety of the Empress Dowager, they would sacrifice their lives for her. Thinking so, he was about to speak. At this moment, he suddenly felt that something seemed to have changed in his body. Prince Ning was shocked in his heart. He felt that the waves of fire in his body were surging up fiercely. The surge of this heat wave was so familiar that Prince Ning's face changed in an instant. Oh no. It's that lascivious poison. Damn it. There's the lascivious fog forced out by that woman Yan Shi. Prince Ning was flustered and exasperated. He didn't have time to think about why there was such a strong lascivious fog in here. He turned around and was about to fly out. However, he just rushed in too impatiently. Because he was afraid that others would stop him, he left a group of important courtiers behind. Once he was done admiring Yan Shi's ugliness, he would call those people in and make an impassioned speech, ruthlessly humiliating this group of people. Let them see what kind of lascivious virtue the Empress Dowager Yan Shi they supported was. But at this moment, this arrangement became an obstacle for King Ning to fly backward. In front of him was a group of private guards who were clearing the way for him. Behind him was another group of private guards who were blocking the important officials from entering. On the contrary, a group of impatient ministers were stuck at the back. The gate of the inner hall was only so wide, but King Ning had brought a lot of people with him. As a result, he was sandwiched in the middle by a group of private guards that he had brought with him. Get out of my way. Sensing that the aura in his body was getting out of control, King Ning bellowed furiously. Just as he desperately wanted to rush out of the inner hall and grab a few servant girls to vent the anger in his heart, the group of guards in front of him could no longer bear the toxicity of the aphrodisiac and directly pounced on him with red eyes. That was right. Luo Qingtong added something to the poison. Originally, the poisoned person would randomly grab people like a rabid dog and use the medicine on them. However, the medicine had been changed to target a specific aura. And this specific aura was naturally designated by her. Crossing her legs and lying on her back on the picturesque beam of the dome of the inner hall, Luo Qingtong retracted her fingers. She had just flicked the medicinal aura on King Ning's body. Just let him enjoy this arrangement. And, the surprise was not only that. Thinking of the person who had hidden behind King Ning and refined the aphrodisiac, Luo Qingtong's lips curled up slightly. Chapter 686. Wait. Stop. What are you doing? Get out of my way. Prince Ning, who had intended to shake off the guards who were blocking his way at the entrance of the main hall, was suddenly pounced on by the guards who had rushed into the inner hall. The eyes of the guards were red. Under the influence of Luo Qingtong's modified lustful poison, they tore at Prince Ning's clothes like wild beasts. Stop. How dare you? How dare you? Prince Ning was shocked and angry. He struggled with all his might, trying to shake off these guards who dared to offend him. But he was also poisoned by the lustful poison. And the more he suppressed it, the more intense it became. Luo Qingtong did not change these effects. She wanted to give them a taste of their own medicine. As soon as Prince Ning used the strength in his body, the lustful poison instantly spread all over his body, making him almost lose his mind. The breath around him also leaked out suddenly. Bang, bang, bang. Before Prince Ning could react, he was pressed to the ground by a group of guards who were panting heavily. Among the layers of figures, only a corner of his python dragon robe could be vaguely seen. Then, it was quickly torn into pieces by the group of guards. Your Highness. Seeing this scene, the private guards of the prince's mansion who had yet to enter the inner hall in time were shocked and were about to rush in. But at this moment, with a bang, the main door of the main hall was slammed shut. A stern shout was suddenly heard from within. How dare you? Ning Wang, is this how much you care for this consort? You rushed into my inner hall with a group of guards who had been poisoned by the lustful poison? Are you taking advantage of the fact that I was injured during the assassination, so you can humiliate me as you wish? Do you want to let these people in, humiliate me, and then put the blame on me? How dare you? Empress Dowager? Suddenly hearing this voice, the people outside were instantly stunned. Especially the ministers who had entered the palace with Prince Ning and did not know what had happened. They cried out in surprise, Empress Dowager, are you all right? Luo Qingtong sat on the beam with a satisfied expression, her eyes slightly closed. Hearing Prince Ning's miserable and painful cries, she imitated Empress Dowager Yan Shi's voice and said coldly, how can I be all right? It's someone else who's in trouble. All of you, get out of the square of the inner hall. Especially the people of Prince Ning's mansion, kill anyone who dares to make a move. This consort wants to see what kind of show Ning Wang has prepared for this consort by bringing this group of people over. Yes. Following Luo Qingtong's voice, the inner palace guards outside said in unison. The reason why they had been suppressed by Prince Ning's was that the latter had forced them to give in the name of Yan Shi's safety. Since the Empress Dowager didn't say anything, they naturally couldn't fight with the people brought by Prince Ning. But it was now. The Empress Dowager had spoken in person. A group of people instantly poured out from both sides of the inner hall like a tide, driving out the private guards who were blocking the entrance of the inner hall. A group of important ministers were also invited to a side hall outside the square to wait. After doing all this, Luo Qingtong raised her eyebrows and slowly hit her fainting acupoint. She did not look at the scene below and directly closed her eyes to rest. Chapter 687. Ah! King Ning's blood-curdling screams lasted for 4 to 6 hours before it stopped. After Prince Ning's screams stopped, Luo Qingtong yawned and let people in under Little Pig's reminder. They carried Prince Ning, who had already turned into a pile of meat paste, with not a single part of his body intact. His entire body was covered in all kinds of dirty liquids, and he was taken away by the private guards of the prince's mansion. As for those guards who were lucky enough to have sex with the most powerful prince of Great Chu, Luo Qingtong's lips curved slightly. In the name of Great Chu's Empress Dowager Yanxi, she directly issued a decree to confer these people the title of prince's husband and send them to Prince Ning's mansion with great fanfare. What else could a man who had sex with a prince be if not a prince's husband? Luo Qingtong would not let this matter pass so easily. Prince Ning wanted to treat it as if he was bitten by a dog. How could this work? Since he schemed against Empress Dowager Yanxi, Luo Qingtong naturally wanted him to reap what he sowed. But it was not enough for him to reap what he sowed. Luo Qingtong also wanted him to feel like a fishbone was stuck in his throat and his reputation was ruined. From now on, he could no longer compete with Empress Dowager Yanxi, let alone have any ideas about the throne of Great Chu. Was a prince who had sex with a man still qualified to compete with the emperor for the throne? Prince Ning wanted Empress Dowager Yanxi to defile the harem and lose his reputation. Luo Qingtong made him suffer all of this. She also completely destroyed his hope. More importantly, she wanted to make use of this matter to give a big gift to the person who was hiding behind Prince Ning who had refined this obscene poison. The other party had better not be in Prince Ning's mansion, otherwise, this good show would be worth watching. Bang! In Prince Ning's mansion, Feng Wan, whose face was hidden behind a blank mask, suddenly turned to look at Ting Qin, who was kneeling beside him, and said coldly, "What did you say?" It didn't succeed. Empress Dowager Yanxi was not poisoned. Instead, Prince Ning and his guards who went to find her were poisoned. Yes. Ting Qin lowered her head. Your Highness, according to the news we've received from the palace, that is indeed the case. Empress Dowager Yanxi seems to have forced the poison out of her body, so she is fine, but Prince Ning and the group of guards who entered were poisoned. As they listened to Qin, they didn't dare to look up at Feng Wuan's face. His Highness had always been meticulous in his calculations. In the Great Yong's sacred dynasty, it seemed that the emperor was in charge, but in reality, His Highness had long controlled everything. His Highness's words were more effective than the emperor's decree. This was the first time they had lost in Great Chu. No, it seemed that His Highness had already failed to deal with the Luo family and Luo Qingtong. The people they thought were dead for sure didn't die. Instead, the royal family of Tianyu was annihilated. Impossible. Feng Wuan's voice was cold. She suddenly flicked her sleeves and sat back down on the chair, slamming her hand on the table. Unless you have my unique antidote, it's impossible to force it out. Not to mention that Empress Dowager Yanxi of Great Chu was able to force him out without any injuries. This was absolutely impossible. Someone detoxified my poison. Feng Wuan's voice was cold and certain. In Great Chu's palace, there are alchemists who are not weaker than me, and even alchemists. At this point, she suddenly waved her hand heavily. Bang! In an instant, Ting Qin, who was kneeling in front of her, was sent flying by her wave of her hand. Chapter 688. Feng Wuan's expression was cold and furious. Originally, she could have used this opportunity to pull down Empress Dowager Yanxi through Prince Ning's hands. Without Empress Dowager Yanxi, with Prince Ning alone, Great Chu's sacred dynasty would be in her hands in less than 3 years. Great Chu's tens of thousands of miles of territory would also be incorporated into Great Yong. Now, such a good plan had failed at the last stage. Empress Dowager Yanxi of Great Chu was fine, and they would definitely be more vigilant in the future. And with Prince Ning's matter exposed, who knew what would happen this time? His identity was equivalent to being half-crippled. It would not be so easy for him to make a move on Great Chu in the future. Thinking of this, how could Feng Wuan not be angry in his heart? Just a little more. The time, place, and people were clearly in the right place, and they were all gathered. She ought to have succeeded. Bastard. It was all this group of trash. Your Highness, please calm down. Ting Qin covered her injured chest and crawled back to Feng Wuan, kneeling on the ground again, and said repeatedly, Your Highness, we have investigated. There is indeed no one comparable to Your Highness around Empress Dowager Yanxi of Great Chu. Moreover, that poison was specially refined by Your Highness to deal with Empress Dowager Yanxi of Great Chu this time. Even if there is such a person in Great Chu's sacred dynasty, they can't cure Your Highness poison for the time being. That delay is enough to make Empress Dowager Yanxi of Great Chu lose her mind. At that time, we can add another crime for her to the harem. Your Highness, we have calculated everything. We never thought that it would fail. Ting Qin said while lying at Feng Wuan's feet. She did not dare to say that all this was planned by Feng Wuan himself. He even came here personally. Whether their information was wrong or not, how could His Highness not know? There was indeed no such person around Empress Dowager Yanxi of Great Chu. His Highness was finding an excuse for his own failure. Ting Qin did not dare to say more, and could only defend herself and blame it on an accident. Feng Wuan was extremely angry now, and his face was cold and he did not speak. At this moment, a cry suddenly came from outside. Your Excellency's sacred hand. Please come and see Our Highness. King Ning was sent back miserably. There wasn't a single piece of unharmed flesh on his body. He looked so miserable that it was as if he only had a single breath left. In particular, a certain hidden place was almost completely rotten. Seeing Prince Ning like this, the people of Prince Ning's mansion naturally rushed to invite Feng Wuan. After all, this was the heavenly divine hand that the prince treated as an honored guest. It was said that he could defeat the evil Dr. Ghost Eye. Feng Yuan felt disgusted when he heard this. Prince Ning was so miserable now, and he still wanted her to treat him? She didn't want to dirty her eyes. Let's go. Ning Wang no longer had any value, so Feng Yuan was about to leave. She could come and go as she pleased in Prince Ning's mansion. Naturally, no one stopped her. However, Feng Yuan and Ting Qin had just walked not far from the gate of Prince Ning's mansion. Behind them, a series of shouts suddenly rang out. Prince! Your Highness! Feng Yuan's face was cold, and she did not even turn her head. She only thought that those people of Prince Ning's mansion were unwilling to let her leave and wanted to ask her to treat Prince Ning. Let the doctors of Prince Ning's mansion save such a disgusting person themselves. However, just as she thought this, in an instant, she was pushed down heavily from behind with a bang. Then, a disgusting smell suddenly came from the person she was pressing down on. Chapter 689. Your Highness. Ting Qin cried out in alarm. The others didn't know that she was calling for Feng Yuan, but the latter heard it clearly. She subconsciously wanted to shake off the person who was pouncing on her body. However, just as she was about to move, she found that her strength seemed to be affected by something. The aura in her body instantly stagnated, and in an instant, it dropped rapidly. Something's not right. Feng Yuan's heart froze. Mixed poison. She felt that her body seemed to have been poisoned, causing her strength to be unable to be unleashed for a moment. The strength of the person who was pressing on her body was extremely tyrannical, as if he had been strengthened. Your Excellency, save me. Quickly. Quickly detoxify the poison in their bodies. Ning Wang, who was pressing on her body, was so terrified that his voice trembled. As ruthless as he was, he didn't expect that one day, he would fall into such an unbearable situation. He had just woken up from his coma, and when he thought of his encounter in the palace, he almost fainted again. The dignified Ning Wang, who controlled the Wei Ning army with one hand, almost covered the sky with one hand, and almost succeeded in changing the dynasty. Who would have thought that one day, he would be pressed under countless men? Thinking of that disgusting memory, Ning Wang hated that he couldn't tear the person who caused all this. However, before he could finish vowing in his heart, the palace sent another batch of people. It was those private guards who caused him to be in such a miserable state. What made Ning Wang even more terrified was that the poison in their bodies had not been detoxified. Yes. At that time, it was he who asked the heavenly doctor to prolong the effects of this poison. This way, he would have more opportunities to set up calmly, and could also see more of Yan Shi's ugliness. But Ning Wang didn't expect that in the end, all of this would be retribution on him. Your Excellency, Heavenly Doctor. I beg you. Quickly detoxify the poison in their bodies. Or detoxify mine too. Ning Wang was about to go crazy. Those guards who were poisoned didn't look for anyone but him. If this went on, he was afraid that he would be raped to death by those guards. How could the dignified Prince Ning accept such a humiliating and disgusting death? Seeing those guards who had been conferred the title of Prince Consort pounce at him with bloodshot eyes, Prince Ning ignored the injuries all over his body and scrambled to escape. Your Excellency, Heavenly Doctor. Please. Quick. This poison was refined by Feng Yuan, so Ning Wang could only come to her. However, the moment Feng Yuan was pushed down by him, he discovered that the poison in his body was no longer the poison he had refined before. The toxicity of the poison had been modified. Although it was still his own poison, the toxicity had been increased by too much. This familiar technique caused Feng Yuan's heart to shudder violently. However, the change in Ning Wang's and her aura was what made her the most furious. She could feel that the poison in Ning Wang's body immediately changed after coming into contact with her. And this change was the source of the mixed poison. Bastard. The person who changed the medicinal properties of the aphrodisiac he refined actually allowed the aphrodisiac to interact with the original poison in his body, causing a new change to occur. Another extremely powerful and tyrannical poison was formed, suppressing the strength in his body. How did the other party do it? Feng Yuan was furious. She didn't pay attention to Ning Wang's words and hurriedly detoxified the poison in her body. Chapter 690. No, no, no. Feng Yuan's expression was ugly. After trying several detoxification methods, she couldn't temporarily detoxify and relieve the poison in her body. Right at this moment, the group of private guards who had been blocked by Prince Ning's guards arrived. They looked at Ning Wang and Feng Yuan on the ground with red eyes and rushed over like wild beasts. There was no other way. This group of people were the prince's husbands personally conferred by Empress Dowager Yan Shi. The guards of the prince's mansion could stop them for a while, but they couldn't kill them. Under their frenzied attacks, they finally managed to catch up. However, when they saw Feng Yuan rolling with Ning Wang, the expression and light in their eyes changed. The eyes that were originally staring at Ning Wang like hungry wolves shifted to Feng Yuan. The latter looked at their eyes and sniffed the poisonous aura emitted from her body. The expression on her face suddenly changed. A second mutation. The lust poison in those people's bodies was changed by someone and only reacted to a specific aura. Now, that aura, after the aura on Ning Wang's body mixed with her previous aura, changed and transferred to her body. The other party had calculated to such an extent. From the moment Ning Wang and these so-called prince's husbands were sent back, it was a trap. When Ning Wang returned, he would definitely come to her for treatment. The poisonous aura on his body mixed with the aura on her body when she refined the lust poison, creating a new kind of poison. At the same time, this kind of poison suppressed her cultivation and also created a new kind of inducing aura, making the eyes of those prince's husbands who were sent back turn to stare at her. Layer by layer, step by step, the other party had thought of so many things. Moreover, this arrangement of sending the prince's husbands back could completely destroy Ning Wang's reputation. This was killing several birds with one stone. The person behind the scenes who designed this tit-for-tat play was so scheming and powerful. Was it Empress Dowager Yan Shi? Feng Yuan's mind turned quickly. At the same time, she directly raised her hand with a cold face and poked several major acupoints on her body, risking the loss of her strength after this to activate the forbidden technique. With a bang, she pushed Prince Ning off her and was about to rush out of Prince Ning's mansion. However, Ning Wang also saw at this time that the gazes of the poisoned private guards were no longer on him. How could they let Feng Yuan go? Since the other party wanted to escape, there was no way they could cure the poison in their bodies. Looks like this heavenly doctor sage encountered an even more powerful opponent than her. In that case, if the other party left, then wouldn't he be the one to be ravaged next? Thinking of this, King Ning's face turned ugly. After being lifted by Feng Yuan, he clenched his teeth and panted heavily as he ordered the prince mansion's guards around him. Stop this heavenly doctor for this prince. Don't let him step out of the prince's mansion. Since the other party was unable to detoxify the poison, he would take his place and fight against the poisoned private guards. Activate the mansion's protective array. Prince Ning's voice was harsh and harsh. This heavenly doctor's poison technique was very powerful. He was afraid that the Wang mansion's guards wouldn't be able to stop him. After all, even if the other party couldn't deal with the poison in his and the private guards' bodies, it didn't mean that he couldn't deal with the prince's mansion's guards. Buzz. Chapter 691. Bang. Feng Yuan had just rushed to the gate when he was jolted back by the array that was suddenly activated. Prince Ning. She suddenly turned around and looked at Prince Ning with an extremely cold and furious gaze. She did not expect that the other party would take Prince Ning's mentality into consideration. Yes, she could not detoxify the poison and attracted the attention of the prince's husbands. No matter how she looked at it, Prince Ning, a sinister and ruthless person, would not let her off. Allies and interests were not as important as her own. Prince Ning's choice was very clear. However, Feng Yuan was in danger because of this. Bang, bang, bang. The poisoned private guards of the prince's mansion rushed towards her. That heavy breathing, that figure that rushed towards her recklessly, and those restless hands, each and every one of them made Feng Yuan feel so disgusted that she wanted to vomit. Damn it. She should not have only brought Ting Qin with her just because she was sure of victory. If she could have more people by her side. Wait. Ting Qin. Feng Yuan's gaze was fixed on Ting Qin, who was blocked by the prince's mansion's guards and could not get close. Her eyes were cold and narrow. In the next second, she waved her sleeve and rushed to Ting Qin's side. The latter was fighting with the prince's mansion's guards. At this moment, she felt Feng Yuan's aura appear beside her. She was instantly delighted. Your Highness, are you okay? Before she could finish her words, Feng Yuan had already grabbed her wrist. Ting Qin, you have been serving me for so many years. Now, it's time for you to sacrifice yourself for me. Your Highness. Hearing his words, Ting Qin's face was filled with astonishment. Soon after, she seemed to have realized something and reacted abruptly. No. No. Your Highness. Ting Qin's face was ghastly pale. She had already figured out what Feng Yuan was going to do. However, before she could speak, Feng Yuan had already pushed her violently. In an instant, Ting Qin was pushed by Feng Yuan and bumped into Prince Ning, who was not far away. Just like how Feng Yuan's aura had changed, Ting Qin's aura had also changed. While suppressing his strength, it also triggered the second medicinal catalyst. After all, when Feng Yuan was refining the aphrodisiac, Ting Qin had always been by his side. Her body was also tainted by the venom. Naturally, it could also merge and transform with King Ning's aura. King Ning. Let me go. I'll leave one person here for those people to vent their anger on. Otherwise, I don't mind fighting you to the death. Feng Yuan's voice was cold and harsh. She had personally pushed out Ting Qin, the head palace maid who had served her for many years and was her right-hand woman. It was not that she did not feel pain in her heart. But at this time, this was the only way to solve his crisis. The person behind the scenes was scheming step by step. Feng Yuan simply did not have enough time to break the other party's trap. More importantly, she couldn't stand those poisoned private guards touching her with their dirty hands. These people, who were so filthy and unbearable, actually dared to touch her. Thinking of this, Feng Yuan's face, which was hidden under the blank mask, turned ashen. His 10 fingers under his sleeves clenched tightly, almost piercing through his palms. All right. If possible, Prince Ning naturally did not want to offend Feng Yuan, the divine heavenly doctor. Who knew what other tricks the other party had? Chapter 692. Ah. Don't. Your. Master, don't. Don't abandon Ting Qin. Master, don't. Ting Qin's voice was full of panic and fear. She looked at the poisoned private guards who were like hungry wolves, their eyes flashing with green light as they flew towards her. She couldn't help but tremble. She was the arrogant woman, who was standing beside Feng Yuan and was obviously disdainful of Prince Ning's comparison of Her Highness with Luo Qingtong. At this moment, he was like a drenched chicken. His body trembled violently in fear. No. Master, please take me away. Master. She desperately crawled to Feng Yuan's feet and desperately kowtowed and begged. Master, save her. Save her. However, Feng Yuan pushed her out himself. How could he take her away? Luo Qingtong had poisoned her with a series of poisons. All of them were linked together, and all of them were triggered. It couldn't be solved in a short time. Only by sacrificing Ting Qin could she escape unscathed. Feng Yuan waved his sleeves heavily and directly shook Ting Qin away. Looking at the woman who was shaken away by him, Feng Yuan's eyes flashed with a trace of viciousness. He flicked a breath towards Tingqin. Swish. She rushed out of Prince Ning's mansion. Ah. Master. Tingqin's voice sounded unusually tragic behind her. In the next second, she was pounced on by a group of poisoned private guards from the imperial residence. The sound of silk tearing and the screams were endless. By the time the people sent by Luo Qingtong arrived, she was completely dead. Dead? In the inner hall of the Chu Imperial Palace, Luo Qingtong heard the report from the general outside and immediately raised her eyebrows. The poison she had poisoned wouldn't kill her. Otherwise, Prince Ning would have been dead. Yes. The general, who was kneeling on the ground outside, reported, but it was only a servant girl who died. The general told him everything he had found out in full detail. The one who really refined the aphrodisiac was a person who called himself a heavenly doctor. The other party had already left Prince Ning's mansion when we arrived. We were incompetent and couldn't trace the other party. Oh. Luo Qingtong's lips curved into a playful smile. It seemed that the heavenly doctor did it himself. The other party was very decisive and ruthless to kill his own servant girl. Heavenly Doctor? What an arrogant name. Heavenly Doctor? Divine Doctor? It was the opposite of her evil Dr. Ghost Eye. It was impossible for Luo Qingtong not to think too much. Heaven versus evil Divine Doctor. What an interesting person. Luo Qingtong leaned on the chaise lounge at the side, and the smile on her lips was indescribably evil and charming. She didn't know there was such an interesting person's tea. Yes. This heavenly divine doctor seemed to have only appeared in the sacred dynasty recently. There are some stories about her in the 4 great sacred dynasties. It is said that her medical skills and alchemy skills are not inferior to evil Dr. Ghost Eye. Recently, her reputation has been slowly spreading. Many forces in the 4 great sacred dynasties are chasing after her. Oh. Hearing this, Luo Qingtong became even more interested. She didn't believe that the other party wasn't targeting her. Where did a random alchemist come from? How could he be related to her? And compare her to her? The other party's strength was not inferior to evil Dr. Ghost Eyes. It was likely that the other party deliberately spread the rumor. It was all for the sake of suppressing her reputation. Then this was interesting. Why would a person she didn't even know deliberately want to suppress her reputation? Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes. Chapter 693. Cough. You can leave first. We'll talk about this later. In addition, no matter what you hear later, you're not allowed to come near here. I have some things to deal with. Luo Qingtong said. Yes. The people kneeling outside all got up and left. They retreated far away from the hall without asking any questions. That's right, they had been reporting to Luo Qingtong from outside the hall through the gate of the inner hall. Until now, they still didn't know that the Empress Dowager Yan Shi they were loyal to was not in the inner hall. And the master they were loyal to was now, bang. After they retreated far away, the entrance of the secret passage that Luo Qingtong pushed Old Master Luo and Empress Dowager Yan Shi into was suddenly opened. Boom! A figure suddenly rushed out of it and swept towards Luo Qingtong. Boom! The surging power around the person was astonishing. In an instant, the violent waves of power rushed towards Luo Qingtong. Bang! The bloody light in Luo Qingtong's eyes flickered. The moment the other party rushed out of the secret passage, she jumped up from the chaise lounge she was on and flashed away from the place where the attack came from. Empress Dowager Yan Shi, you know, maybe I should call you Old Madam Luo? You're already with my grandfather, so you're considered a member of our Luo family. How can you point your sword at me like this? Luo Qingtong swept over the beam with an innocent face. However, the pair of flickering bloody eyes and the life and death yin-yang sword in her hand showed that she was not so defenseless. TSK, this Empress Dowager Yan Shi was really stubborn. She obviously liked her grandfather so much, so why didn't she admit it? She helped her, but she still flew into a rage out of humiliation. Didn't she know that if it was another granddaughter, perhaps she wouldn't be as righteous as she was? Shut your mouth for me. Empress Dowager Yan Shi of Great Chu had a fierce aura. Her long hair was draped over her shoulders, and her face was more delicate than a flower. At this moment, it was unknown whether she was angry, but her cheeks were flushed red. He looked at Luo Qingtong as if he was going to spit fire. Who allowed you to scheme against me? What happened between this consort and him is none of your business. This young girl was Luo Tong's granddaughter. Thinking that this was the daughter of that man's child with another woman, Yan Shi's heart felt like it was being torn apart. She was misunderstood by that man, chased down and jumped off a cliff. She lost her child. That man was with someone else and even had a child. He had a lot of children and grandchildren. Now, his granddaughter had caused her to lose her chastity to him. Don't say that it was to save her. She would rather die than have anything to do with that man. Not to mention becoming a member of the Luo family. Empress Dowager Yan Shi was furious. She drew her sword and rushed towards Luo Qingtong again. The girl's eyes suddenly sharpened. At this moment. Bang! At the entrance of the secret passage, another figure rushed out. The man who rushed out had sword-like eyebrows and starry eyes, and his eyes were relaxed. His face was square and firm, masculine and handsome. His aura was extremely imposing, and he had the aura of an iron-blooded man with a proud and unyielding aura. He was a little embarrassed and only put on a coat in a hurry. His chest was wide open. At this moment, seeing Empress Dowager Yan Shi stabbing towards Luo Qingtong, he hurriedly rushed over and said, "No. Stop it right now." Chapter 694. Bang! The long sword in Empress Dowager Yan Shi's hand shifted, and directly slashed at a beam in the oblique direction. Luo Qingtong on the beam also blinked for a while. The pill that was about to pop out in her hand turned in her palm and was instantly taken back. As for Empress Dowager Yan Shi, after the pillar shook violently for a moment, she was struck by lightning. She turned back abruptly and looked at Old Master Luo, who rushed out with a face of disbelief. "This is impossible. Luo Tong, you lied to me." Empress Dowager Yan Shi's voice trembled, with both hope and doubt. She held the long sword in her hand with trembling fingertips and said, "Back then, you didn't believe me and let me be forced to the cliff by your good brother. Luo Tong. I was stabbed 31 times. Do you know how much my heart hurts?" Hong was lying in my arms, his whole body was cold. He was also stabbed 3 times. He had just turned 1 year old at that time. Do you know what the chances of a child who had just turned 1 year old being stabbed 3 times in that kind of situation are? This is impossible. Hong is already dead. Don't try to lie to me. When Empress Dowager Yan Shi said this, the expression on her face became firm. No. It's not like that. Seeing her like this, Old Master Luo couldn't continue to hide it for a while and hurriedly said, I didn't not believe you at that time. But I was lured into the mountains by them and was surrounded by the beast tide. When I came back from the siege, I heard that something had happened to you. When you jumped off the cliff, I rushed over. But I didn't make it." When Old Master Luo said this, his heart was filled with unspeakable pain. "I saved our child. At that time, Jinghong's life was in danger, so I didn't have time to continue looking for you. Qingtong is really our granddaughter, Jinghong's daughter." "Impossible." Empress Dowager Yan Shi's voice was very loud. Her long sword pointed straight at Old Master Luo, pressing on him step by step. "After I was rescued, I went back to Dongli country. Your Luo family is prosperous. A group of bastards. You have long forgotten me. Jinghong can't be alive." Speaking of this, Empress Dowager Yan Shi's heart was filled with hatred. How could something that she had seen with her own eyes be false? Luo Tong clearly said that on purpose to save his granddaughter. This man bullied her again and again. Does he really think that I can't do anything to him? The hatred of being slandered and forced to lose her son in the past welled up in her heart. Empress Dowager Yen, she raised her sword and prepared to attack. At this moment, Grandfather Luo's voice rang out, one word at a time. I didn't. He looked at the beautiful woman who was pointing her sword at him. He walked forward step by step, allowing the trembling tip of the sword to touch his chest. I didn't let you down. You're the only woman I've ever had in my life. I thought that after you died, would completely give up on love. Those bastard sons are not mine. They are the orphans of the generals who died for the Luo family. My Luo clan's legitimate son, from the beginning to the end, is only fleeting grace. He is our child, the only bloodline of the Marquis Zhengguo's estate. If you don't believe me, you can send someone to the Luo family's ancestral hall right now to see whose name is written on the memorial tablet of the Marquis Zhengguo's estate's wife that is enshrined there. It's you. Old Master Luo looked straight at her. His handsome and resolute face, which had recovered its youth, stared at Empress Dowager Yen Shi. Your name is written on it. You are the Marquis Zhengguo's estate's old madam, Qingtong's grandmother. You. Empress Dowager Yen Shi's heart shook. Chapter 695. Empress Dowager, this general has something urgent to report. It's about Ning Wang. Hearing this urgent voice, Empress Dowager Yen Shi's heart, which was touched by Old Master Luo's words, suddenly froze. Go hide behind the screen first. She didn't have time to argue with Old Master Luo about what happened decades ago. Old Master Luo also knew that she had something important to do, so he directly retreated behind the screen. Grandfather. Luo Qingtong also came down from the beam at this time, looking at Old Master Luo with a smile. TSK, grandfather, I didn't expect you to be so handsome when you were young. She looked up and down at Old Master Luo's appearance after he became younger, her eyes curved into a crescent moon shape. Of course. Your grandfather used to be handsome, masculine, and handsome, otherwise how could I win your grandmother's heart? Old Master Luo was happy to be praised by Luo Qingtong. He didn't expect that the pill Luo Qingtong gave him could make him younger. Thinking of Luo Qingtong's last words to him, grandfather, eat this, there's a surprise, Old Master Luo couldn't help but smile. This surprise wasn't just an ordinary kind of surprise. If it weren't for this, he wouldn't have dared to tell Yen Shi about what happened back then. After all, the past was the past. She was now in her prime and was the Empress Dowager of Great Chu. She was graceful, powerful, and had authority. He was a bad old man who hurt her like that back then. What right did he have to mention the past to her? This time, if it weren't for Luo Qingtong accidentally exposing Yen Shi's feelings for him, coupled with the catalyst of the poison of love, and the fact that he became younger, Old Master Luo would never have said the words that were like a confession. He would bury this matter in his heart forever and stay by Empress Dowager Yen Shi's side for a lifetime until his lifespan was exhausted and he died happily. He would not say a single word to Yen Shi. He would only watch as the woman he loved the most proudly and honorably sat in the most honorable position in Great Chu. It didn't matter if she hated him or tortured him, he wouldn't say it out loud and disturb her life at this moment. Luo Qingtong looked at Grandfather Luo's smug face and couldn't help but twitch her lips. She wondered what her grandfather would do if he knew that there was a time limit to the effects of the medicine. The pill that Luo Qingtong refined for Grandfather Luo was the youthful rejuvenation pill that she saw in a secret manual of a certain sect in her previous life. It was said that the sect had the foundation of immortal cultivation, and in the past, immortals had ascended. However, on Earth in the 24th century, spiritual energy was declining, technology was advanced, and supernatural abilities were born. Immortal cultivation was just a legend, and could only be a legend. However, Luo Qingtong didn't believe in superstition and was very curious. In addition, her eye technique could analyze all medicinal properties, so she naturally wouldn't let go of those cultivation manuals. she was the one who developed the youthful rejuvenation pill. It was just that the spiritual energy on Earth was declining, so she couldn't find enough substitute medicinal materials. However, after coming to this different world, spiritual energy was everywhere. In addition, Luo Qingtong had the black field behind her, so naturally, she quickly collected the medicinal materials that could be used to refine the youthful rejuvenation pill. It was just that the most important spiritual medicine was very rare, and even with the black field's ability, they couldn't find it for a while. Luo Qingtong could only temporarily replace it with other medicinal materials. In this way, the effects of the refined medicine naturally couldn't be consolidated, and there was a time limit. Chapter 696. Luo Qingtong looked at her grandfather's happy appearance and really couldn't bear to tell him this cruel fact. Let him be happy. As for the medicinal pill, after she dealt with the matter here, she would choose a time to go to the main city of the Black Field of the Great Chu sacred dynasty to see if she could find that medicinal herb. Or find a medicinal herb that could perfectly replace the medicinal properties. The medicinal pill she refined before was lacking in medicinal properties, so the effect was not lasting. While Luo Qingtong and Luo Leia were talking in low voices behind the screen, in the inner hall, Empress Dowager Yan she looked at the general she summoned in and asked with a frown, "What happened to Prince Ning?" Speaking of Prince Ning, Empress Dowager Yan she's face was cold. This time, she was poisoned by the love poison, and it was inseparable from Prince Ning's arrangement. When she just rushed out, she was affected by that man's matter too much and forgot about Prince Ning for a while. She didn't know what the other party did when she was poisoned. However, after Empress Dowager Yan she asked, she didn't expect that the general's words were completely out of her expectations. Empress Dowager, Prince Ning's conspiracy this time was exposed and counteracted by you. He has completely gone crazy. Knowing that he can no longer get the throne, he announced the decree that the late emperor left for you, allowing you to leave the palace and remarry after his death. He distorted it and announced to all sides, saying, the general gritted his teeth and said, saying that he is willing to comply with the late emperor's edict and support you as the Empress Dowager to find a husband and remarry. What? Empress Dowager Yan she stood up abruptly and looked at the general kneeling on the ground. She said in disbelief, Prince Ning did this? Is he crazy? Wasn't Prince Ning crazy? He failed to plot against Empress Dowager Yan she with lascivious poison, but he got himself involved. Now, the whole imperial court knew that he colluded with outsiders and brought the private guards of the prince's mansion into the palace with the intention of taking advantage of the Empress Dowager's assassination. In the end, he reaped what he sowed and harmed himself. He was pressed down by a group of men. So many people inside and outside the palace witnessed it. And the group of old officials that he had brought with him. Under such circumstances, Ning Wang would never be able to turn over a new leaf. Even if he had the chance to clear his name, it would be impossible for him to ascend to the throne. What's more, the mistake he made this time was enough for Empress Dowager Yan she to unite with all the ministers to strip him of all his real power and status. It was impossible for him to make a comeback. Therefore, King Ning went crazy. After discovering that he couldn't win against Empress Dowager Yan she, he directly ordered his subordinates to spread the news of the Empress Dowager's marriage. He couldn't get the throne of Great Chu, right? Then he would destroy it. The Empress Dowager was looking for a husband. Anyone with ambition and power would not let go of such an opportunity to enter the Great Chu. What's more, King Ning even mentioned the late emperor's edict. Those people had even more reason to attack. As long as he could become the Empress Dowager's husband, wouldn't it be justified for him to intervene in the political affairs of Great Chu? At that time, even if Empress Dowager Yan she and the ministers tried to stop him, they might not be able to stop him. King Ning wanted to turn Great Chu upside down. Since he couldn't get the throne, then Yan shi and the others wouldn't have it easy either. Chapter 697. Bastard. Empress Dowager Yan she was furious and clenched her teeth. Ning Wang's move was too ruthless. If it was not handled well, the entire Great Chu Empire would be completely overturned. From then on, the throne would change hands, and the entire Great Chu Empire would be in someone else's hands. When did the news spread? How many people know now? Empress Dowager Yan Shi asked with the last glimmer of hope. If not many people knew, she would rather take the risk of Great Chu Empire's turmoil and mobilize the Holy Capital's army to directly wipe out Ning Wang's faction. The reason why she had not done so before was that even if she was the Empress Dowager, she was still an outsider. Killing a member of the royal bloodline would incur the wrath of others. Ning Wang's faction was not weak. If she seized this opportunity to counterattack, she would put herself in danger. But now that Ning Wang was desperate to such an extent, Empress Dowager Yan Shi could not care so much. But as soon as she spoke, the general shook his head and said, "There's no other way. Empress Dowager, Ning Wang is really going all out this time. His messages are sent out in all directions. Now, the main cities of the four great sacred dynasties already know about this." Ning Wang had completely put all his eggs in one basket and acted without any scruples. Naturally, he would not give Empress Dowager Yan Shi time to cover up. When the general received the news, it had already spread all over the world. That was why he hurriedly entered the palace and even ignored the Empress Dowager's decree not to enter the inner palace and asked for an audience outside. The impact of this matter was really too great. If they were not careful, the Great Chu Empire would be in danger of being destroyed. While Empress Dowager Yan Shi and the general were talking, Luo Qingtong and grandfather Luo also heard the matter clearly from behind the screen. Oh my God! This Ning Wang is quite ruthless in his work. He actually spread this news directly. This time, your grandma is in trouble. Little Pig said in Luo Qingtong's mind. Whether it's trouble or a good thing, it's still unknown. Luo Qingtong's lips curled into a smile. Empress Dowager looking for a husband? Wasn't this a ready-made opportunity for her grandfather? If it wasn't for this, with his grandfather's temperament, he didn't know how long he would have to spend with Empress Dowager Yan Shi. After all, although the misunderstanding had been resolved, with his grandmother's current status, it would not be easy for his grandfather to win her heart. But everything had been resolved. As Luo Qingtong thought about it, she turned to look at old Master Luo beside her. Sure enough, he saw the old man, who had been showing off and complacent just now, gnashing his teeth for a while. He looked very irritated and uneasy. After the general left, grandfather Luo rushed out from behind the screen and rushed to Empress Dowager Yan Shi. After he called out, he choked back his words. He couldn't say the rest of his words. He wanted Empress Dowager Yan Shi to leave the matters of Great Chu alone. He wanted Empress Dowager Yan Shi to leave with him. In this way, even if Ning Wang wanted to use the matter of the Empress Dowager looking for a husband to disturb Great Chu, it would be impossible. The Empress Dowager of Great Chu had already disappeared, so why was she still looking for a husband? But the person in front of him was the Empress Dowager of Great Chu, the most honorable and glorious woman in the Great Chu sacred dynasty. Tens of thousands of people prostrated themselves in admiration. Ministers knelt and looked up to her. Chapter 698. Just thinking about it made old Master Luo feel too selfish to open his mouth. But if he didn't say it, was he just going to watch her be with someone else? Old Master Luo's face turned blue in an instant. He circled around Empress Dowager Yan Shi for a while, looking at the woman again and again, but he couldn't open his mouth. Enough. Empress Dowager Yan Shi was annoyed when she saw him like this. After this reunion, this man had changed too much from before. Who was he trying to show this abandoned look to? Who was the one who was hurt deeply back then? If this man had cared a little more about her before, valued her a little more, she wouldn't have been forced to such a point by his brothers. Thinking of this, Empress Dowager Yan Shi was depressed and couldn't help but lift her leg to kick him. Get out of my way. Seeing him like an abandoned puppy, she was annoyed. Empress Dowager Yan Shi glanced at Luo Qingtong next to her, her gaze indescribably complicated. This time, it was you who did it? Empress Dowager Yen. She had just learned from the general what happened in the palace when she was not there. She didn't expect Ning Wang's mind to be so vicious. What he used on her was not an aphrodisiac at all, but an extremely violent aphrodisiac. Hearing the general say that Ning Wang reaped what he sowed, Empress Dowager Yen, she understood this point at once. In this way, it was her granddaughter who saved her. If she hadn't brought Luo Tong here, she was afraid that under her forced poisoning, her mind would have completely disappeared and she would have fallen into an unbearable situation like Ning Wang. Not to mention, she also solved all the future troubles for her and removed Ning Wang, who was the biggest threat to her. Such a girl, was her granddaughter? Was she the daughter of the little child she thought had died? Ah. What's the matter? Is it about the aphrodisiac? Old Master Luo still didn't understand the situation. Hearing this, he thought that Yen she still wanted to settle accounts with Luo Qingtong, so he suddenly said nervously. Yen she, don't blame Qingtong. She also did it for our good. Grandpa Luo originally wanted to say it for my own good, but after thinking about it, he still added the word us. In fact, he also felt that his granddaughter was lying to him when she told him that she couldn't cure the poison in Yen Shi's body. It was all for the sake of creating opportunities for him. But he didn't dare to say this in front of Yen Shi. Shut up. When Empress Dowager Yen Shi heard him talk about the love poison and how it was for their own good, her face flushed red. She gritted her teeth and glared at him coldly. This has nothing to do with you. Get out of my way. Yes, old Master Luo curled into a ball. His tall and handsome body silently shrank to the side. Luo Qingtong's lips twitched as she watched from the side. Grandpa, is it really okay for you to be so afraid of Grandma? She was thinking when she suddenly heard Empress Dowager Yen Shi's voice. This time, it's all thanks to you. Empress Dowager Yen Shi's lips moved. Luo Qingtong felt that she seemed to want to ask something, but in the end, she didn't ask. She only said to Luo Qingtong, you also heard the news just now. Now is an eventful time in Great Chu. It's not convenient for me to keep you here. You. Chapter 699. Elder Luo's heart skipped a beat when he heard this. What did Yen Shi mean? She wanted to send them away? No. To be precise, she wanted to send him away. Old Master Luo's nerves were very thick. But this time, he suddenly seemed to have been enlightened and immediately understood what Empress Dowager Yen Shi meant. You want to send me away and never see me again. Isn't that right? Empress Dowager Yen Shi didn't answer him, but said, I am Empress Dowager Yen Shi of Great Chu, it is impossible between us. She couldn't give up Great Chu and leave with him. After so many years of yearning, how could Empress Dowager Yen Shi not see that old man Luo had been circling around her in annoyance and depression? What did he mean by that look of hesitation on his face? But because she knew, she couldn't agree. It was even more impossible to leave with him. She was indebted to the Emperor of Great Chu. She swore that she would protect the Great Chu's sacred dynasty on his behalf until his bloodline grew to the point where he could succeed the throne. She would not leave the Great Chu's sacred dynasty. Impossible, my ass. Old Master Luo was furious. The words that he didn't dare to say just now came out in a fit of anger. You are my woman. We just slept together. Your name is still engraved on the memorial tablet in our Luo family's ancestral temple. If you want to leave, you have to leave with me. Impossible. Empress Dowager Yen Shi shook off his hand and looked at him with a determined expression. When I was seriously injured and fell off the cliff, it was the Emperor of Great Chu who saved me. All these years, it was also him who took me in when I had a dead heart and lived in the Great Chu Palace. He provided me with resources to increase my strength. If it weren't for him, I would have died. Luo Tong, you wouldn't have the chance to see me today. So, you don't have to say any more. I won't leave with you. The Great Chu's sacred dynasty is now my second home. It will also be the battlefield for me to overcome all obstacles in the future. No matter what happens, I won't leave here. Empress Dowager Yen, she said, and left. You can go. From now on, pretend that we have never met. She gritted her teeth. She shouldn't have let her feelings go in the first place. She still had the entire Chu's sacred dynasty to shoulder, and it was impossible for her to do as she pleased. Old Master Luo was so anxious that he wanted to rush out, but Luo Qingtong pulled him back. Grandpa, let's go. No. Old Master Luo would never agree. Qingtong, you don't know your grandmother's personality. Since she said something like that, once we leave this place, she will really pretend that she never saw us. They will completely forget about us. Old Master Luo couldn't finish his sentence. He thought that after the misunderstanding was cleared up, he and Yen she would be able to return to the past, but he didn't expect that such a thing would happen again. It was all that damned Ning Wang's fault. With that in mind, Old Master Luo was about to rush out when Luo Qingtong stopped him. Since you know Grandma is like this, it's useless to chase after her like this. Luo Qingtong blinked her eyes and looked at him. Grandpa, the pill I gave you has a time limit. Chapter 700. Grandpa Luo froze at her words. Luo Qingtong's words poked at Grandfather Luo's Achilles heel. Especially the last sentence. How could he turn back into that old man again? Thinking of Yen Shi's beauty, then thinking of his sunset days, Old Master Luo's lips moved. In the end, he didn't say anything and his entire spirit collapsed. Let's go. If he could maintain his current appearance, he could hold on a little longer, but I'm not worthy of her. Grandfather Luo said with a dispirited face. He was useless. If only he hadn't died because of Yen Shi's death and neglected his cultivation. In this way, the gap between him and Yen Shi wouldn't be so big. So big that he didn't have the face to stand by her side and tell all those who coveted her that this was his woman. So big that he couldn't stop the Empress Dowager's marriage from happening and couldn't share her worries. Otherwise, why would he have to separate from her? He was useless. Let's go. Old Master Luo walked out in silence. Luo Qingtong pulled him and said with a smile, Grandfather, don't be sad. We're just leaving temporarily. Believe me, we'll definitely give Grandmother a big surprise. Leave? It was just a temporary measure. Luo Qingtong had already thought about what to do. When the time came, everyone would be surprised. What a joke, she was Luo Qingtong's grandmother, how could she marry someone else? Ning Wang wanted to scheme against Empress Dowager Yen Shi, but he had to see if she agreed or not. Speaking of which, she might have to thank him for his crazy actions. Otherwise, how could her grandfather have such a good opportunity to be together with Empress Dowager Yen Shi openly? Qingtong, don't comfort Grandfather. Grandfather Luo waved his hand weakly. Grandfather isn't in the mood to joke with you. Leaving Yen Shi made Grandfather Luo's whole heart feel like it was hollowed out. Luo Qingtong's words couldn't make him happy. It wasn't that he doubted his granddaughter's ability, but he was like this, Forget it. Old Master Luo shook his head with a bitter smile and followed Luo Qingtong out with his head down. Luo Qingtong looked at him and raised her eyebrows. She didn't continue to speak. Grandpa would know when the time came. She, Evil Eye, would never lie. The two of them left the inner hall together. Outside, there were already people arranged by Yen Shi waiting for them. Looking at the group of people, Grandfather Luo's smile became even more bitter. It seemed that Yen Shi would not feel at ease until she saw them leave. Let's go. He looked at the group of people and his lips moved. In the end, he only said these two words. Because the woman he loved deeply would not listen to what he wanted to say. Schwa. When they left the Chu Palace, Luo Qingtong took grandfather Luo out of the Chu's sacred capital and came to the foot of a barren mountain in the suburbs. She raised her hand and summoned the spirit ship. "Grandfather, let's go." Grandfather Luo responded in a low voice and followed her into the spirit ship with a dazed expression. Before entering, Luo Qingtong looked meaningfully in the direction they came from. There, a faintly discernible figure had been following them closely. Looking at the figure in the distance, Luo Qingtong's smile was evil and charming. In the next second, her mind moved. In an instant, the entire huge spirit ship swept up. Chapter 701. Bang! While Luo Qingtong was heading to the main city of the Black Field, in a magnificent mansion in a city far away from the holy land of the Empire of Qin, Feng Wan's figure appeared in a sorry state, and then fell heavily to the ground. "Your Highness." Seeing this scene, the people who were left behind in the mansion immediately rushed over and hurriedly tried to help her up. But she slapped them away with her sleeve. "Get lost. Don't touch me." Feng Wan was angry and hateful. She had never suffered such a great humiliation. When she thought of those poisoned private guards pouncing on her with greedy eyes, she felt a wave of disgust. As a result, she couldn't stand the touch of her subordinates. Now, she only wanted to ruthlessly rub off the layer of skin on her body. Feng Wan did not forget that she was still touched by those disgusting people even though she tried her best to avoid them. It was the person who hid behind the scenes and planned all this. This could not be the work of Empress Dowager Yan Shi of the Great Chu. It was that person. That person who broke the trap she lured Prince Ning to do and returned all the poison and schemes to her, that expert in refining medicine hidden in the Great Chu Palace. Who was it? She had never heard that the Great Chu imperial family had raised such an expert. If there was such a person, Prince Ning would not have been so unguarded. Who was it that ruined her plans? Feng Wan thought for a while and gritted her teeth. "Your Highness." The group of people who were fiercely pushed away knelt beside Feng Wan, trembling with fear. "Your Highness, we did not protect you well." "Your Highness, are you hurt?" The leading powerhouse cautioned cautiously. In fact, they were all ordered to do things by Feng Wan. The latter only felt that victory was in his hands this time, and thinking of his identity as a divine heavenly doctor, he only brought Ting Qin with him. Who would have thought that in the end, she would fall so badly? Even she almost died in Prince Ning's mansion. If she had not sacrificed Ting Qin, she would not have been able to get out this time. After all, if the person who set the trap was sure that she was in Prince Ning's mansion, how could he not take any action? Thinking of this, Feng Wan's face turned ugly. Ever since she had revealed her innate talent, she had never suffered such a huge loss again. Not to mention that she had previously boasted to Ning Wang that no one would be able to detoxify the aphrodisiac that she had refined. In the end, his face was slapped swollen in the blink of an eye. "Investigate." Feng Wan's voice seemed to contain invisible coldness and resentment. "Find out which alchemist is hiding behind Empress Dowager Yan Shi of Great Chu this time. I want to see who dares to go against me." The other party's poison arts were top-notch and extremely stunning. Feng Wan admitted his inferiority. If the other party was willing to submit to her and become a dog crawling at her feet, she was willing to spare the other party's life. Otherwise, that person could only wait to die. Ruining her plans was simply unforgivable. Feng Wan's voice was extremely gloomy and cold. The people kneeling below were shocked when they heard it, and immediately responded in unison. How long had it been since the graceful and noble Her Highness had been so angry? Thinking of the news that they had inquired about in Great Chu's sacred capital, everyone's hearts suddenly quivered. They did not dare to think deeply about what Her Highness had encountered in this process. Prince Ning, aphrodisiac. Ting Qin, who did not return, in addition to Her Highness's intense reaction to their touch just now. Everyone felt that they seemed to have spied on an extremely terrifying truth. Chapter 702. Swoosh. When the leader received the message, he was instantly overjoyed. Your Highness. Our chance is here. What chance? Feng Wan looked at him coldly. Her mind was still stuck on the previous failure and she was in a very bad mood. Her plan against Great Chu had failed. She did not know how long she would have to wait to unify the eastern region. Damn it, it was obvious that Great Chu's sacred dynasty was the best place to start. The late emperor had passed away and the weak one had succeeded the throne. As long as Empress Dowager Yan Shi of Great Chu who was blocking the way was taken care of, the rest would be logical. But at this juncture, someone had ruined it. And if she wanted to attack the other two dynasties, the empire of Qin was too powerful. The emperor was in his prime and there was no way to attack. Furthermore, Great Qi wasn't a neighbor of Great Yong. Even if Great Qi were to create chaos in Great Yong, it wouldn't have anything to do with Great Yong. Perhaps Great Qin would even take advantage of the situation. At that time, she would not be able to control Great Yong and seize the four dynasties. It would be good if she was not annexed by the Empire of Qin after Great Qi was annexed. At that time, the Empire of Qin would be the one to unify the world. Then, she would really become someone else's wedding dress. Therefore, Great Qi could not be touched, and the Empire of Qin could not be touched for the time being. The only one who could be touched was Great Chu. But the plan had failed and King Ning had been abolished. She had almost lost the only chance to touch Great Chu. Just as Feng Wan was thinking and feeling depressed, the leader's voice sounded excitedly. Your Highness, Great Chu is in chaos. We really have a chance again. Swoosh. Feng Wan suddenly looked up and stared at him. Great Chu is in chaos? Is this true? When did this happen? King Ning's plot had been exposed, which was equivalent to being abolished. Under such circumstances, who could still mess up Great Chu? Feng Wan's heart was full of disbelief. It's King Ning. The strong man said excitedly. Your Highness, just as you returned, the spies in the holy capital of Great Chu sent news. Prince Ning has announced to the public that the late emperor of Great Chu allowed Empress Dowager Yan Shi to marry someone else, and announced to the public that he is willing to support Empress Dowager Yan Shi of Great Chu in finding a husband to rule Great Chu together with someone else to fulfill the late emperor's wish. Now, the entire Great Chu is in chaos. Ning Wang is really going all out this time. Who knows how many ambitious schemers have responded to his words. You know, marrying Empress Dowager Yan Shi is equivalent to getting the entire Great Chu's sacred dynasty. After all, she is the regent Empress Dowager who is in charge of the Great Chu. As long as you marry her, you will be able to interfere in the political affairs of Great Chu. At that time, even if Empress Dowager Yan Shi and the other officials stop us, they won't be able to stop us. Your Highness, don't you just lack an opportunity to do so openly? Now, King Ning has delivered it to us. Your Highness, you don't have to worry that the failure of the previous plan will affect our plan to seize Great Chu. The leader of the group said with a smile on his face. A smile slowly bloomed on Feng Wan's face. The cold and gloomy appearance from before was suddenly swept away. That's right. Her expression was calm and graceful as she leaned on the imperial consort's chair behind her. You're tuning in to the Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.